Okay, welcome to Bright Videos News for Monday, August 10, 2026. I'm pausing because I'm having to look at the calendar. Forgot what day it is. But anyway, I've got a really important special report for you today coming up about what is the likely release date of the new mRNA flu shot, the vaccine that will, of course, hijack people's cells and will cause their own cells to churn out alien protein, non-human proteins, protein toxins, which are toxins which will shed on other people. This day is coming. We don't know exactly what day it's going to be, but it's coming, and there's a tool where you can find out when it's available in your zip code. So I've got a special report coming up about that. It's probably going to launch in September, maybe October at the latest is our current guess, but I'll bring you more details about that. See, the thing is we have to be ready. We have to defend ourselves against vaccine fallout. This is going to be just like COVID. Again, all these shedders walking around like human bioweapons, shedding all over everybody, making other people sick with toxin exposure. So we're going to have to defend ourselves against these vax idiots, who keep shooting up with bioweapons that are designed to either make them spreaders or kill them, one or the other, Either way, the globalists win. It's like, hey, if we kill them, that's depopulation. We save money on Social Security. If we don't kill them, then they spread the toxin on everybody else, and those people get sick, and then we sell more pharmaceuticals, or maybe kill some of those people. I mean, that's how evil this whole system is. They're now going to cause outbreaks by releasing mRNA vaccines. Those will make people sick, and then that will be labeled an outbreak. Okay, something else today. I also did an interview, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, I think, with a show called Church and State. And it was a really great interview. I enjoyed it. I always want to give the show that interviews me the opportunity to run it first. So I believe they've already run that show. So now I'm going to run it. And that also helps introduce you to some potential new shows that you might want to check out, like Church and State. So that interview, I'm pretty sure we have that one ready. That'll be coming up today, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I mean, it was a great conversation. So that's coming up. Next thing I want to mention before we get to the special report about the mRNA is that, I'm kind of sharing something a little bit personal. But for many years now, since I've been living in the country, living on a ranch, I play a mental game. And the game is called, you'll laugh, it's the ultimate black pill game. The game is called No One Is Coming to Save You. And what it means is that when something breaks, whether it's electrical, plumbing, engines, devices, solar, computers, hardware, tires, anything. When something breaks, you pretend, or I pretend, no one is coming to save me. And I have to solve the problem myself. That is, if I win the game, I solve it myself. If I can't solve it myself, then I lose the game. Now, I have a couple of rules that I've come up with over the years, which are pretty helpful. Number one, I can use any amount of local AI to help me diagnose the problem, walk through the steps of solving the problem, etc. This has been a game changer. I started out a couple of years ago using Qwen 7B. It was very helpful just by itself, but today I'm running DeepSeek version 4 Flash on some local hardware. Oh my goodness, that thing can walk you through diagnostics and repair for all kinds of problems. It's kind of a really great assistant for that. So I use that to help me walk through issues. I'll give you an example here shortly. The other thing I allow myself to do is I can purchase any tool that is necessary to complete the job. So for example, you can't really diagnose electrical problems without a voltmeter, right? You're going to need voltmeters, and you're going to need screwdrivers and hammers and For changing tires, you're going to need, tire levers, which are large pieces of iron, and so on and so forth, right? So if I can't solve a problem, I do give myself the ability to purchase the tools that are necessary to solve the problem. Then I wait for the tools to arrive, and then I attempt to do the repair or whatever. And that way, I've learned how to do the repair, and now I own the tools. And so this way, over a number of years, I've acquired quite a lot of tools that are necessary for self-reliance. Although that has led to another interesting challenge, which is no matter what the problem is that you have, normally you're missing one tool. No matter how many tools you buy, this is the man cave problem. It's like, well, how big does your man cave need to be? Well, pretty much. It's all about wall space for all the freaking tools that you need to fix everything. Real men, anyway. Real men have their walls covered with tools. Fake men have their walls covered with giant screens so they can watch other people play basketball. Just saying. Okay, like real men don't sit there and watch sports all weekend. They're out fixing stuff, actually. So anyway, this mental game that I play with myself, the reason I tell myself I need to play this game is because I've long had this vision of a collapse in society where a society doesn't function and you can't call experts to come solve your problems. And you can't get, Amazon Prime delivery or UPS deliveries or whatever. You may not even be able to get to a local hardware store, or if you can, there's maybe nothing on the shelves. So I've long understood that these kinds of disruptions are coming. Could be from war, could be from, nuclear terrorism, it could be from supply chain collapse, financial collapse, social collapse, like all kinds of reasons why this could happen. EMP, solar flare, giant comet striking the Atlantic Ocean or whatever. So anyway, since I played this game, I have, over the years, over like 10 plus years, I have forced myself to do a lot of things where maybe most people would just call somebody or, take your truck into a tire shop to change the tire instead of deciding that, no, I need to change the tire myself and I need to figure out how to take this tire off the rim and get a new tire and put it on the rim, which is not a small thing. And, things like that. Or if one of my ranch machines seemingly maybe the starter goes bad, right, on a diesel engine. And then I'm like, okay, now I have to figure out how to change the starter. Great. That's not easy either. It's actually kind of tight quarters for a ratchet on the one that I did change, I don't know, a while ago, year and a half ago or whatever it was. But over the years, I've forced myself to just take on these very practical skills. And frankly, it's served me well. But what just happened over the weekend really pushed the limits of even what I was capable of doing. Although I did succeed. But Friday, well, I went to bed Friday night, and sometime like 4 o'clock in the morning on, well, what is essentially Saturday morning, my air conditioner stopped working. So, a central air unit for a relatively small residence. I don't live in anything very large, as you might know. It's pretty small, but still, it's Texas. It's 100 to 105 degrees during the day. You're going to cook without some air conditioning, right? So the air conditioner quit right in the early morning, and I knew, oh my God, this place is going to cook by noon. It's going to be 95 degrees in here. So anyway, I let myself go back to sleep to get a little more rest, woke up and decided I have to solve this problem. So my thermostat had no power, like there was nothing on the screen on the thermostat. And so I go to my local AI, DeepSeek, and I ask it, like, walk me through diagnosing problems. Here are the symptoms. Tell me what to check. I have a voltmeter, and I can check stuff. So it starts walking me through what to check. Like, first check the breaker box and, make sure you have 240 volts from the breaker to the to the ground base there, whatever they call it, in the breaker box. And of course, you got to be careful because you don't want to electrocute yourself. So I'm testing that. It's like, yeah, 240 volts. It's all good. Go back to the AI. Okay, what next? It's like, okay, go outside. Pull the disconnect out of the external outdoor disconnect box, junction box, and then probe the voltage of the disconnect connection. I don't know what you call them, the leads or something. So I'm out there, I'm connecting those, and like reading the voltmeter. Yeah, that's all good. I go back to the AI, like, what next? It's like, well, you say you have nothing on your thermostat, so that could be a failure of the transformer, because there's a transformer in your AC unit that outputs 24 volts, kind of a low voltage thing to run your thermostat, which is pretty common. So you take the cover off the thermostat, you look at the wires, there's like a red wire, there's a blue wire, there's also a bunch of other wires, and you try to find if there's 24 volts between the red wire and the ground, or the red and the blue. And so I tested all the wires, like yellow, green, magenta, cyan, red and everything. And it's like, there's nothing. It's all zeros all across the board. So I go back, it's all zeros, man. And DeepSeek tells me, well, probably your 24 volt transformer board has blown out, or it's been chewed by rats or something, which is pretty common living in the country. Oh, great. So I go to where that board is installed, which is at the bottom of this AC unit. And I'm looking down there, and there's a wire coming out of it. And oh my God, it's been all chewed up. Like most of the insulation is gone. I'm like, oh, the rats have been at this. So that's when I realize, okay, I probably can't fix this one. So I'm going to take a loss on the game here. I'm going to call a professional, but it's Saturday. So this place is going to cook for a couple of days, and probably all the HVAC professionals are really busy next week. So I got to figure out how to cool this place myself without central air. So you might be wondering, well, how are you going to do that? So, so this is where I got a win out of the game. Have you ever seen those little portable air conditioning units that you connect to a window? Well, I've purchased a few of those over the years for cooling like data center rooms and things like that. And there's a brand that I have grown to trust, and it's called Midea, M-I-D-E-A. Or maybe you pronounce it Midea, I don't know. Midea? I pronounce it Midea. So fortunately, I had a couple of spare Midea units, and the reason I like these is because they pull, like you stick them in the window, right? And they pull air in and they push air out, so that it's kind of an equilibrium. It's not creating like a net positive pressure or a negative pressure in your home, which means it's not like sucking hot air from outside into your home through other doors and cracks and things. So it's exchanging air with the outside, but then it's blowing cool air inside. So basically it's sucking in inside air, cooling inside air, and blowing out inside air inside, while it's sucking in outside air as a carrier and blowing out hot air to the outside. Does that make sense? That's how these units work. And they are rugged, man. They are rugged. The thing is, they're freaking heavy, and it turns out that the place that I live, the way it's built with the windows and stuff, I had to build these like platforms for these units and then lift them by hand. And they're like, what are they, like 75, 80 pounds or something. And they're very difficult. So I had to lift them up onto these platforms and then get them into the windows and everything. And finally made that work. And then sometimes they drip water. So I had to do some PEX plumbing. You know how I have PEX tools and things. So I had to put in a drain line into a bucket. So then got all that going, turned those on, ran those, and sure enough that it worked. And man, just two of these units, which you can buy online, they cooled the place. Which also tells you not a very big house, but 2 of these units cooled the place so much that at night, like my wife and I were like, it's getting kind of cold in here, you know? It's like, these are really working. So, but it was kind of physically exhausting to do all the moving and construction and everything to get that in place. But I'll take that as a win, even though our central air conditioning does not work. This is the same place that our heater broke like 5 years ago. And since then, I've been heating with an outside wood boiler where I burn wood that makes water hot, and then we circulate water into an air door radiator with a fan that blows the heat out of hot water. So we've been heating with wood for years. And I never bothered to fix the furnace because I'm like, I really don't want to use the furnace, you know? Like, heating with wood sounds fine with me. I like to live as low tech as I can, except for the fact that I'm running AI engines to function as a consultant, which I actually think that's a good setup. It's like, you want to be able to live low tech in case you have to, but you want to use high tech tools to help you solve problems and diagnose issues, things like that. So anyway, I'm going to take this as a win for the moment because I did cool the house. But, you know, it's like $1,500 worth of Medea coolers to do that. So anyway, that's still a win because you're allowed to purchase tools. All right. Next thing then, and this has to do with vibe coding and AI vibe coding. So I'm trying to do backups with this tape storage device, which is LTO-10. I don't know if you're familiar with any kind of tape storage, but the reason people use tape to store files for archiving is because tape will last 50 years and it has, I think, about 2 orders of magnitude better data retention, better sort of checksum algorithms. In other words, it's 100 times less likely to lose data compared to a hard drive. The thing about tape is that it's freaking, like, it's linear, right? It's just one giant piece of tape, actually, is what's in a tape cartridge. It's not even a loop, by the way. It's like a cassette tape, but bigger and a lot more expensive. But these tape drives are capable of writing at very high speeds and reading at very high speeds and storing a lot of data in a small cartridge for long-term archiving. However, all the off-the-shelf backup software is crap, and almost nothing in the Windows operating system works with the new LTO-10, which is called an Ultrium. It's an IBM tape drive that will cost you like $14,000 just for the drive. So I was running into lots and lots of problems with this. I'd solved some problems, not others, but I had to write my own backup software, which I've been working on for a couple of weeks, vibe coding, the backup software. And it was running, but it was slow. It was super slow. And so I realized, you know, I've got like a number of network storage devices that I have to back up because of all the data that we use for, you know, our AI indexing and everything. I mean, a lot of data. So I realized that I can't do this in a serial fashion, just like pulling data across the network, staging it on a local hard drive, pushing it to tape. It's just too slow. So I actually vibe coded a solution to, in parallel, it's going to stage the next backup job off of the next network storage device on a different local 26 terabyte hard drive while it's writing the current job to tape. And the tape drive is connected via a 10 gig separate network connection. So I've got a dual 10G NIC card. This one is from Nick Giga, by the way. And so on one of the 10Gs, it's pulling off the network for the next backup task. And on the other 10G, it's pushing from local hard drive to the tape at nearly the top speed of a 10 gig connection, which is fast. It's very fast. So finally, and it took a lot of time to put this together. Has to have, logging and error correction, and it has to detect problems with the tape and, loading and unloading and spooling and unspooling and all kinds of stuff. Too much detail to go into. However, I got it working. It's working right now. I'm looking at it and it's just kicking ass. And finally, I'm getting like real good throughput on this. I'm going to be able to write a few terabytes after I go to sleep here, maybe many terabytes of data to the tape. So that's a win, right? So that's another case where I play this game with myself. It's like, no one's coming to save you. I can't just call some programmer, like, write me a kick-ass backup program. I got to do it myself with the help of AI. Now, in this case, I did use cloud-based AI, just to be clear. I didn't rely on local DeepSeek. I did use a combination. I used a combination of DeepSeek, Kimi, and also Fable 5 from Anthropic as the director, by the way. And that result worked very, very well. Fable 5 is a great sort of oversight project manager AI. So anyway, in a collapse, I wouldn't have that cloud-based AI. But I think that over time, local AI is going to get more and more capable, like Fable 5 level, probably within just the next 3 to 6 months is what I would imagine. So anyway, I'm going to call that a win. All right, then, so the next thing that happened, just because God wanted to give me a weekend of just endless things to fix, I guess. It's like, I never got a weekend, man. But I would have spent the weekend just recording anyway. But I was out jogging, in the sunshine, because that's what I love to do. I was out jogging with my dogs. We were having a great time. It was freaking hot, of course. But I bring a water sprayer, I spray water all over, and then I run around and try to stay cool. And I got my Chinese language course going. And I had to start a new course, which is a little bit under my skill level. So none of it is difficult right now. So it's kind of easy. I'm just repeating simple Chinese phrases, running around half naked in the forest with water sprayers and stuff. And, but to get to my jogging place, I have a side-by-side. I call it a ranch buggy. And somehow something happened to the tire when I was driving there, so that when I was done jogging, the tire was just flat, or it was the rear right side tire. It was flat. Well, I managed to air it up briefly, limp back to where I could put it up, jack it up to look at the tire. The tire had been sliced by something. It was like 1.5 inch gap. So it wasn't just, I didn't just run over a thorn or a nail or something easy where I could just plug the hole, with the tire plug kit. That's what I was hoping. It's like, I'll be done in 10 minutes, Nope. It was a giant slice. And I've seen this before when I've run over a deer antler. Deer antlers can pierce the tire. That's happened before. It's ugly. So I don't know if I ran over a deer antler or something, but this tire was toast. So I knew at that time, oh my God, I'm going to have to take this tire off the rim and put a new tire on the rim. You ever done that yourself, with just home tools and such? It's something that, I'm glad I know how to do it, but I dread doing this because it's just so difficult. So, of course, I use the impact drill and take the tire off the vehicle, and then getting the broken tire off the rim is easy. That's the easy part. So I got it off the rim, and of course it's all dirty and everything inside because I had a flat fix solution circulating in the tire, and that's all gooey and nasty, like a combination of gray and black goo all over the place. Anyway, got that out of the way, and of course I have some spare tires on hand, but not mounted on the rims, right? So I have a spare tire. And then I forgot to tell you, to take the old tire off the rim, one of the things you need to do is you need to break the bead of the tire, right? Those of you who've ever done this, you know what I'm talking about. You have to like break the airtight seal of how the tire lip like rides up on the rim. This is difficult, but there are tools for this. One of them is a common like bead breaker. I think it's called a bead breaker or a bead buster. And you use it with an impact drill. And I had bought like the most high-end bead breaker that you could buy. It was for everything, even for truck tires. Oh yeah, here it is. I found it online. It's called Bead Buster. That's the brand. This thing is $300. It's called Bead Buster XB550i Heavy Duty. Okay? Yeah, it turned out not to be so heavy duty because the bead breaker broke the minute I tried to use it because the top bolt is screwed into some kind of like bolt sleeve. That's a threaded bolt sleeve that goes into the cast iron device. And that whole freaking sleeve came out when I'm just using it. So it's like, well, there goes $300. See, this is one of the things about playing this game is you get to find out which tools work and which tools don't work. And for me, the bead buster got busted. So that was like $300 down the drain. So by the way, I've already ordered like a replacement bead breaker that's a different brand that hopefully has a better quality design, because these devices are really important. They can break that bead around the tire much more quickly than trying to do it with a bunch of tire irons and such, right? So anyway, the other thing you need to know about doing this with tires is you have to have a lubricant for the tires. Now, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. You can make your own lubricant dirt cheap. I'll tell you how. This lubricant that you make in a blender, this lubricant is good for tires. It's good for pulling wires through conduit for solar installations, because I did that a few weeks ago. Without this lube, you are screwed. Believe me, whether you're trying to take a tire off a rim, put a tire on a rim, pull wires through 100 feet of conduit or whatever, you are screwed without this lube. This lube is nothing more than xanthan gum with water. That's all it is. You can put in like, let's take a Vitamix, like half the pitcher filled with water. You can put in like 1 spoon of xanthan gum. I don't know if that's a tablespoon or whatever. I don't know. Just try it. It's like a spoon. That's all I do. I just put in a spoon, let it blend. It'll thicken up over 10 minutes or so. And it's like this lubricant goo. It's like a lube gel. This stuff, and by the way, or you could waste a lot of money and buy like tire lube or like tire installation lube online for $20, or you could make it for like 20 cents. You see what I'm saying? You should have a pouch of xanthan gum for this very purpose. You never know when you're going to need some emergency, lube for one of these projects. So anyway, no Lindsey Graham jokes allowed here. He's already gone. Not allowed. So you make the xanthan gum lube, you lube the whole rim of the tire, and then you take the tire off the rim, right? Then to try to put a new tire on a rim. Now, I don't know if you've ever done this yourself, like in your garage or something, with your own human hands, instead of using a machine, instead of having a professional do it, just like, okay, I have this basically like a car tire and I have this rim. How do I get this freaking tire on this rim? It's ridiculously difficult. And that's if you know what you're doing. If you know about the special sort of, I don't know what you call it, the slot in the rim that's got a smaller diameter that you have to use in order to make this happen. But the amount of force that is necessary to pop this tire over that rim is huge. Like I had to use my whole body weight. And that's with the lube on the tire. If you don't have the lube, forget it. It's never going to happen. You could try it for 100 years. It'll never happen. But I'm standing on the tire and I'm like pulling this big tire iron lever and, working it around the tire with multiple tire levers and trying not to let go and have it pop me in the nuts or something. You're like, you got to be careful with this stuff. And then finally, pop, boom, it's on the rim. Oh, thank God. Like, this is a lot of work for accidentally running over a deer antler, plus the cost of the tire, which is like $100 or whatever. So then once you get the tire on the rim, by the way, you're not done. You now have to seat that tire with air pressure. I don't know if you know this, but you can't just start pumping it full of air because it's not sealed yet. It hasn't been seated. In other words, it hasn't gripped the bead yet, let's say. So how do you do that? Well, turns out you have to hit it with like a burst of high pressure all of a sudden. So how do you do that? So you have to have an air compressor, basically, which I do. And the air compressor, you got to crank it up to, 120 pounds PSI or something like that. And you start popping it with the air, and then you spray it with water and look for where the bubbles are coming out. And if the bubbles are coming out around the rim, you start hopping up and down on the tire to try to make it like seal, And so you're like jumping up and down. You're doing a little tire dance with the air pressure and jumping up and down. And then at some point it grips and it just starts going. And now the tire is sealing up. And at some point, then the tire expands and it goes up the rim on the top part. And then it goes down the rim beneath. And then it goes pop. And it's seated. Okay. So that's how you get a tire on a rim. And at that point, you can stop dancing on the tire, and then you gotta, physically put it back on the vehicle, and the rest of that is easy. Like screw it back on. So I did that, and that was a win. But it's one of those wins that I just hate doing. It's like every time I have to do that, sometimes I think to myself, why can't I just be like a normal person, just take this thing to, like Joe's tire shop down the street or whatever, because Joe's got a machine. He does this in, 3 minutes. And the answer is always like, well, I need to know how to do this. So sometimes I kind of torture myself with these tasks, But that's why I don't have time to watch football, basketball, baseball, women's basketball. Although, if there was a sport I was going to watch, it would be women's basketball with all the male players in it, because that's fascinating. And what's his name? Royce? He has decided to join the women's NBA. What's his name? Royce? Is it White? No, I don't know. Big, tall, very capable, skilled, black dude that can play basketball like really well. And, I know this is off topic, but he has decided to join the women's NBA on purpose, strategically, to force the women's NBA to define what is a woman. So it's genius. So I totally support this. I think it's awesome. I want to see this guy kicking ass on the women's basketball team just to show the absurdity of it all, But then again, I don't have time to watch any basketball because God keeps giving me all these things to fix. And I'm working on building a solar system, as you may know, and that requires a whole nother skill set and a lot of physical labor. So these are the games that I play. And as a result, I'm like physically wiped out, like shoulders are all fatigued and everything. And, I worked my ass off this weekend. And then when I wasn't working my shoulders and everything, I was working my brain on the vibe coding and trying to define, throughput speeds on NIC cards and things. But I got to tell you something. I am so glad that I do strength training workouts with kettlebells, because if it wasn't for that, And as you know, I've been working out now for like almost a year and a half since I discovered the BPC 157 peptide. Because of those workouts, I can do these very physically demanding jobs without injury. And, here I am in my mid-50s and, working out kettlebells, push-ups, pull-ups, this and that, doing the stuff. The only reason I want to be strong is so that I can do things without hurting myself. It's like, when you're 20, if you're a male in your 20s, you're like, you want to be strong because you want to look good. It's all about cosmetics for most 20-year-olds. It's like, just look all buff and everything. Not that I ever did in my 20s, but that's why that's a motivation for a lot of 20-year-olds or 25 or 30 or whatever. It's like, I want to look good. When you're in your 50s or your 60s, I would imagine, you work out because you want to stay mobile. You want to be able to do stuff. You want to be able to lift things. What kinds of things? Like to lift a Medea air conditioning unit without hurting yourself, 75 or 80 pounds. You want to be able to lift a heavy tire with a rim so that you can put it back on a vehicle. You want to be able to pull, a tire iron with 100 pounds of force or whatever. This takes physical strength. And this is like functional strength, This isn't gym strength. I lift kettlebells because they represent actual, real functional strength. They are the closest thing to the things that you need to do when you live in a rural setting. And to me, this is all about training for self-reliance. Because in my game, like no one's coming to save you, that game also means that you need to be able to carry water, carry bags of grain, fix tires, I don't know, whatever else, pull hoses a long way, like carry around giant solar panels or whatever to install them or repair them or this and that. You need to be able to move like 8x4-foot pieces of plywood. Let's say you're building something or a shelf. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to be functional with this. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to do this because of the kettlebells training and because of the BPC 157, which I'll tell you how to get that, by the way. This peptide has changed my life. This peptide got me back into training. It helped my body heal my scar tissue, heal my back tissue, allowed me to get into kettlebells and jogging again. It was like a year ago. It was March of 2025 that I was able to start doing that again. And since then, my functional strength level has just shot up tremendously. BPC 157, I take it intranasally. If you want to get some of this, you can. It's not FDA approved. It's not a prescription drug, but you can find it from a company called Limitless. You can find them on my Ranger Deals page. That's rangerdeals.com. Just scroll down. You'll see Limitless Peptides. Click on that. There's a discount code there, Ranger. We are an affiliate of theirs. We earn a little bit on your purchase, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. It helps support us a little bit. But the most important thing is that BPC 157, which has decades of research behind it, it drives circulation to injured tissue in your body. And the result is, at least in my experience and in a lot of the clinical trials, sports injuries heal faster. Old, like scar tissue type of injuries, or I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but really old chronic injuries, like in my case, martial arts injuries, heal in a way that was not possible without this peptide. And the thing about this peptide is you don't have to take it via injection, so there's no injections, and it's a peptide that you make normally in your stomach, just at much lower levels. And you know why your body makes it in your stomach? You know why? It's very interesting. Because your stomach acid tears up your stomach tissue and a little bit beyond your stomach in your digestive tract. So your body makes BPC 157 to let your tissues heal after the acid damage. I mean, essentially, I'm simplifying it, but that's why your body makes it. So it turns out that if you take it intranasally and you have this peptide circulating throughout your entire blood supply, then it does that accelerated healing with other tissues in your body. It brings blood supply to essentially like scar tissue or connective tissue that's had injuries before. So anyway, I know that's a long story to tell you about my game called No One's Coming to Save You. But if you play this game, number one, your weekends will be all used up fixing things. But secondly, you're going to learn a lot of skills that will serve you very well. And you're going to end up with a tool collection, by the way. And you won't have any time to watch any sports, not even Royce in the women's NBA, which would be a shame to miss that. But if it hits the fan with a collapse scenario, guess what? You're going to know how to do stuff. Like, I'll just give you an example. In my mind now, because I've been playing this game for so long, like to replace, let's say, the automatic dishwasher in the kitchen, that's a no-brainer. Easy job. To replace the refrigerator, easy job. Appliances, replace the laundry, washing machine, dryer. Oh my God, that's so easy. I wish I only had to do that on the weekend. Like, that's no problem. I've done all those things and much more. Usually now I'm handed tasks that are way more complicated than that. If I only had to replace appliances, that would be easy. But it's important to know how to do these things, It's important to know, number one, how things work, and to have a backup option for when things don't work. So, I've had times when, like, my one toilet didn't work. I only have one bathroom where I live. It's a single bathroom, residence. That toilet stopped working. It was an emergency, Had to work on that. Had to figure that out. I learned way too much about plumbing, and plumbing gone bad. It's good to know these things, though. It's good to know how tires work. It's good to know how compressors work. It's good to know how air conditioning works. It's good to know how electricity works. It's good to know how a voltmeter works. All these hands-on skills. They are critical. And for those of you who are women on the younger side, if you're looking for a man, you should look for men that can do real things with their hands. Not men with little weak, pathetic hands that typing away clickety-clack on keyboards all day selling crypto and financial instruments, No. You better look at their hands. They better have at least a little bit of calluses somewhere. They better have some hands that are capable, like grip strength. I've talked about this before. You want to date a man? You should bring like a bag of grain with you. Just put it in the back seat of your car, and like when you show up on a date or something, tell the man like, hey, I want you to pick up that bag of grain with one hand and sling it over your shoulder. If you can't do it, you ain't getting nothing. It's like you need real men who can do real things with their minds also. Obviously, then they have to be smart. They have to be capable, but also that don't have these little wimpy, keyboard hands all the time. At least that's my opinion, but what do I know? I'm not on the dating scene, so who knows? But little wimpy fingers are just swiping, The social media scrolling and swiping. It's like, that doesn't count. You're not doing anything. Freaking change your car battery or something, Do something with your hands. Change your car battery. Just start there. Just, can you point where the car battery is under the hood? Can you jumpstart a car? Do you know how to change a flat tire that's already on the rim? Do you know where the jack is in the car? Do you know how to jack up the car without like ripping the bumper off? Just like basic questions. You should have a little obstacle course for your man, little obstacle course. It's like before the first kiss, like you need to like repair this fence. You need to like install this refrigerator. You got to fix this truck. You need to let's just have like 5 or 6 things for the man to do. Like prove you're a man. If they make it through all 5 or 6, then you give them a kiss. All right, I'm being a little facetious, but raise your standards is all I'm saying. It's like you're going to need real men to teach your kids how to do real things, and the real men that I know are really good at all this kind of stuff. Some of them, even way, way more skilled than I am. And they're real men. And the ones I know actually have real families and grandkids too. And they're homeschooled and they know how to work with ranch animals and all kinds of stuff and construction tools. They can build like houses and things. Yeah, that's the way it should be. Basically, like half Amish is what you're looking for. All right. So anyway, that's my report on the games I play with myself about all this stuff, and also why I've chosen a more difficult path of self-reliance. And it's not about saving money from not calling professionals. It's about knowing how to do things. Unfortunately, it will occupy a lot of your spare time. All right. So with that said, then we're going to proceed with the special report on mRNA and then the interview I mentioned earlier. So enjoy the rest of the show. And again, if you want some BPC 157 or other therapeutic peptides, just go to rangerdeals.com, click on Limitless there, and there are a number of formulations that you might be interested in. There's also a BPC 157 that's oral, and there's some that are mixed with other peptides in a capsule. So you can actually take this one orally or intranasally. And it's very effective. Has been in my experience anyway. Just make sure you have good nutrition on top of that. You want to have good nutrition. You want to have the repair building blocks in your diet. You want to take collagen. You want to have a quality protein like a whey protein, maybe from our store, healthrangerstore.com. You want to have chlorella and spirulina, which is high protein and contains phycocyanin, astaxanthin, all kinds of things that can help you. You got to have zinc, obviously, for repair. Some quercetin is a good idea. Some turmeric, some resveratrol for your cardio. I mean, on and on. Just sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts is always good. But have a good, healthy diet, and then the repairs will all work better. So thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of the show. Very critical question is emerging in the minds of people who are concerned about their health in the age of mRNA, so-called vaccines. They're not really vaccines. It's gene therapy. They call them vaccines so they can just sweep them under legal immunity and the PrEP Act and emergency use authorization, etc. They're not actually vaccines. Not at all. But remember what we went through with COVID and people shedding all over other people and how that actually harmed and even killed some people and made your life difficult too, probably because everywhere you went, you didn't know if somebody's going to shed on you. And by the way, I have a graphic, if my editor can put it up here, it's called Don't Shed on Me. And I have a version of the graphic also. Well, I have a couple versions, but this is one, Don't Shed on Me. I've got one with a doctor. That's kind of funny. But don't shed on me, right? Instead of don't tread on me. But here's the question. With the FDA now announcing its approval of the mRNA influenza vaccine, which hasn't even really been approved at all, I will explain that. People are wondering what's the day that these injections go live, right? What's the day? The truth is, we don't know yet. But it is reported that this is going to take place within the next few weeks, maybe a couple of months. Definitely, according to one company, it's going to be for the fall flu season. Now, let me bring your attention to the way the FDA lies about its so-called approval of this vaccine. So here's the actual post from the FDA, August 6th. Quote, FDA has approved the first mRNA-based seasonal influenza vaccine for adults 50 years and older. Now, Now, parse these words carefully, okay? I'm continuing. Quote, the vaccine is indicated for the prevention of influenza disease caused by influenza A subtypes and influenza B strains represented in the vaccine. Now, wait a second. What did they just say? Well, I posted about this. I want to read the post for you. So many lies packed into one phrase. Notice the FDA does not say the vaccine prevents influenza infections, nor transmission, nor disease. It is instead indicated for the prevention of something. It's indicated for something. Doesn't say it prevents it, does it? You say, well, it's indicated for something. That's like saying, well, we designed this airplane to fly at Mach 5. It doesn't mean it flies at Mach 5. It just means somebody designed it to. Like we intended it to fly at Mach 5. Or have you ever seen like a pizza box? It says, our pizza is made with 100% real cheese. Like, well, but so how much of the cheese is 100% real cheese, right? So it could also be made with like 99% fake cheese and 1% real cheese. And the box would be true. It's made with 100% real cheese. It's just one ingredient, because clearly there's other ingredients, other cheeses or whatever, right? So then the FDA says that this is about the prevention of, quote, influenza disease, not influenza. Should read their words carefully. They don't claim it treats influenza. They claim it treats influenza disease. See, what's the difference? Well, influenza is understood to be a transmissible virus that replicates illness, but that doesn't exist. That's a hoax. So instead, the FDA uses the phrase influenza disease, which describes a collection of symptoms that they just label influenza disease. And they hope you will conflate that with the idea of influenza infection, even though that's not what they're saying at all. Nowhere in the FDA's statements or even in the marketing materials of this, or even in the scientific literature, does this say that this shot blocks transmission, blocks influenza infections. Nothing of the kind. So, see, the FDA 100% knows that the mRNA vaccine does not prevent infection. It does not prevent transmission, and it does not prevent any disease. So they play word games to insinuate that it does. But if you parse their words like we're doing here, they're actually admitting the whole thing's a medical hoax. And then at the end, they admit that the so-called influenza disease that they are invoking is actually caused by the vaccine itself. They literally say that it's influenza disease caused by ... strains represented in the vaccine. So they are admitting that the vaccine causes the symptoms which are labeled influenza disease. So if they want to have an influenza outbreak, they just push the mRNA vaccine, which of course hijacks everybody's cells, and they churn out influenza, protein pieces that then just shed all over everybody. Subtypes, A subtypes and B strains, or, like they say in their materials. And then all of a sudden they say, well, there's an outbreak. We're detecting it everywhere. Yeah, because it's from your vaccines. So, and then when more people are diagnosed with those symptoms, the corporate media will say, well, more people have influenza. But that's not true at all. More people don't have influenza because you can't have influenza. Nobody has influenza. There's a pattern of symptoms that's caused by the mRNA vaccine that's labeled influenza disease. But the FDA admits the vaccine doesn't prevent influenza infections or transmission. Effectively, they're saying the vaccine doesn't prevent anything. It causes things. It carries things. It infests you with things, disease symptoms that are labeled influenza disease. It's an open admission if you know how to read their words, by the way. So, and also realize none of the clinical trials so far even use a placebo. They didn't compare it to placebo. So it's all a quack science hoax at this point. And of course, they're targeting the elderly, 50 and older. They're targeting the elderly. Why? Well, the elderly are the people who collect Social Security and Medicare and, pensions and disability mostly. And, they're trying to balance the federal budget. So they have to reduce outlays. So how do they do that? Kill off the elderly. Like, make them think that this is made just for them. It's a special little package for you. Yeah, it infects your cells, hijacks your cells, and turns you into a bioweapons factory so that the government can get rid of you and stop paying out so much, so maybe they can sell 10-year treasuries at a lower yield to prevent the dollar collapse from taking place. Yes, they are killing off entitlement recipients in order to reduce government outlays, cash outlays effectively, and reduce the rate of rising national debt, which is already 40 trillion. That's why they're targeting the elderly. In my view, it's very clear. This is a targeted depopulation weapon designed to save the federal government money. Now, why didn't they roll this out for people in their 30s or 40s? Huh? Why? Because those people are paying taxes. Those people are net revenue receivers from the government's point of view. They're revenue generators for the government. Retirees are not, they're not paying in taxes to the government for the most part. They're collecting entitlements, medical coverage, Social Security, right? So that's why, in my view, it's very clear. That's why this is targeting the elderly. It's for financial reasons. So the sad truth of this is a lot of elderly people are easily tricked into thinking that this is actually a vaccine or that it's going to protect them. I mean, who takes flu shots? Mostly elderly who are tricked by their doctors. If you take the flu shot, you won't get the flu, and so they line up to take the flu shot and then they still get sick. Why? Because the flu shot makes them sick. And then even if they tell their doctor, after I took the flu shot, I got sick anyway. And the doctor says, well, if you didn't take the flu shot, you would have been sicker, which is just some kind of quack science cultism that they're pushing. No, if you didn't take the flu shot, you wouldn't have been sick at all. If you just took vitamin D and zinc and quercetin, immune boosting function and got some sunshine in your life instead of sitting at home all day watching the Wheel of Fortune or whatever people are doing, rolling around in the care center. I mean, get outside, man. Get some sunshine. That's medicine. But, sadly, look at what a lot of elderly people are fed in retirement centers or nursing homes or where they go out to eat, sometimes because they're on a very limited budget, fixed incomes. So they go out to, the all-you-can-eat buffet of the lowest cost processed foods. Nothing's organic. Everything's saturated with pesticides and GMOs. And it's like, in their minds, that's all they can afford. So their health deteriorates. And then that makes them even more susceptible to spike proteins or mRNA, alien protein synthesis in their own bodies. Right? So there's going to come a day within just a few weeks. We should call this, I guess we should call it like M Day. It's not D Day. Maybe M Day for mRNA. I don't know. M Day doesn't sound right. We should call it 0 Day or something, I'm just going to call it 0 Day, okay? Because we're going to count down to 0. That's the day that this injection starts getting injected into elderly people. Right now, I had my AI research agents run around and try to find what day that is. So far, that day has not been announced. The company that makes the vaccine says it will be available, quote, in a few weeks. It will roll out at, quote, select retailers and pharmacies like, CVS or Walmart or whatever. It can be taken by adults 50 years and older, like you qualify for it. Like if you're 49 and you show up and nope, you don't get it. You have to be 50. If you're 49 and stupid and you want to be injected with medical assisted suicide, you know. So this is 50 and older. It has full approval by the FDA, which is ridiculous, ages 50 to 64. And then it has accelerated approval for 65 plus. What does that mean, accelerated approval? It means they didn't do any science. I mean, not legitimate, you know, no long-term clinical trials, no placebo studies. They don't even know the side effects. They don't even know how many people this is going to kill. We're going to start to see death rates skyrocket again, just like we saw after the COVID jabs. No question in my mind. We're going to see a wave of elderly dying off later this year and all next year, and probably the year after that too. This is undoubtedly going to occur. And of course, the media will say, well, they're dying from influenza, so more people need more vaccines. And then, of course, they're going to blame the unvaccinated. It's these unvaccinated. They're the super spreaders. No. The super spreaders are the shedders. We'll call them super shedders. It's the people that took the jab. They're the spreaders. They're the shedders. They're the ones making people sick. Exposure to toxins, for God's sake. It doesn't even require a virus. It's just that their body's cells are producing toxins, toxic biological weapons, basically, and then shedding them outside of their bodies onto everybody else. And look, I'm recording a course right now. It's going to be available for free. This course teaches you how to survive what I call vaccine fallout. Specifically, it covers two topics: how to survive mRNA vaccine shedding, and also how to survive radioisotope fallout following nuclear war or nuclear terrorism, because it turns out it's the same nutritional strategies that work for both of those things. All exactly the same. Because ultimately we're talking about DNA damage and immune collapse. So if you protect yourself from vaccine fallout using the strategies that I outline in this free course, which will launch within a couple of weeks here. I mean, I'm going to get this out before the vaccine launches, I hope. Well, I'm pushing hard. Then you're going to be protected against the shedding, and you're going to be protected against, radiation fallout. Plus, you'll be protected against 5G exposure, EMF exposure, high voltage power lines, electropollution, all that kind of stuff too. Because those activate some of the same pathways. Even though 5G radiation is non-ionizing, it still can produce peroxynitrite in your blood, which is a radical oxidative molecule that can cause severe DNA lesions or genetic damage on your chromosomes, by the way, just from 5G exposure through the creation of this other molecule. So you need to know how to protect yourself. Since 0 day is coming, and let's pick a day here. What is it? It's August 10th right now, roughly. Yeah. Okay. Let's just guess that this is going to be, let's say October 1st. All right. So let's say that's like 7 weeks out or something like that. On that day, all kinds of people are going to be instant super shedders. And actually, the super shedding will accelerate in their bodies over many days after they take the mRNA. Remember, the mRNA has to hijack their cells to start churning out the alien protein fragments, right? To start shedding on you. And that doesn't happen within seconds or even minutes. That takes hours or days. There's a curve of how that ramps up and then how it sustains. And we covered this the other day, but in many people doing this, they can be super shedders for not just like 90 days, not just 180 days, but even up to 2 years. In some people, not everybody. This can be a long-lasting infestation of the body's protein synthesis mechanisms. So a person that takes one of these mRNA jabs could be a super shedder spreader for up to or nearly 2 years based on the existing medical literature. Wow. They're going to be shedding all the way till the fall of 2028. Well, clearly you and I have to protect ourselves prophylactically against those people. In other words, since we don't know who they are, because they don't wear a giant sign on their forehead that says like dumbass medical suicide person, you're going to have to just protect yourself from everybody, which really the best thing is nutrition. Certain nutritional strategies that I'll be talking about in my free course coming up. But also, hand washing, right? I'm not saying to run around wearing a mask. That's not going to help from protein fragments anyway. You don't have to wear gloves, or you don't have to walk around in a bubble to protect yourself from all these people. You need to protect yourself nutritionally and with sunlight therapy or red light therapy plus photoactivated nutrition. There are very specific strategies. Some of these things you can grow yourself that will give you tremendous protection against other people shedding these toxic proteins or protein fragments. Sometimes it's fragments of proteins that are themselves actually rather dangerous. Sometimes they can be more dangerous than the whole protein because they have more biochemical mobility once they infest your body, by the way. So keep that in mind. So this also means that if you know of a specific person that is bragging about, oh, I got the new mRNA jab, you want to come over for dinner? No, because I'm not interested in having mRNA soup, for dinner. I'm not looking for little RNA sprinkles on the salad with the croutons. No, thank you. So, where would you pick up the most shedding from the super shedders? Well, in a vehicle. If you give them a ride in your car, they're shedding all over your back seat like you're an Uber with unknown travelers back there. That's one reason not to be an Uber driver, is you don't know who's shedding all over the inside of your car. Airplanes just recirculating all the same shedding over and over and over again. Oh my God. Church, think about it. Church. There's a place where there's a lot of elderly Christians who, if their pastor tells them, it's like, Jesus told me to tell you to take the mRNA jab, because they're actually working for Satan, but they're pretending to be like a Jesus proxy. Yeah, you're just going to have to maybe not go there. I mean, why expose yourself to that? I mean, it's your call, obviously, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't go. And by the way, God's already everywhere. To be close to Jesus or God, you actually don't have to go to a certain special building. Because God's not even in this dimension. It's a dimension above this one, which means it permeates everything in this 3D space. You can find God in a flower. Okay. You can go out into the forest. You can find God. Heck, you can find God in your own realization, in your own consciousness. You literally don't need to go to some building. I'm not saying church can't be beneficial in some ways. There's lots of ways that churches can be beneficial. Teaching the Bible, for example, or, community and things like that. But I'm just saying, if you had to take a leave of absence from church, you don't have to give up God, is what I'm saying. You can still connect with your Creator, even though you're not in that building, because maybe the back row is full of shedders or something. Who knows? It's probably the same church ladies that are filled with perfume. I would imagine they're probably shedding perfume and laundry detergent and alien protein fragments all at the same time. You can probably just smell them. It's like, no, thank you. Now, here's the thing. There are going to be different manufactured lots of the mRNA flu shot. What do you remember about the different lots during COVID? During COVID, and these data were gathered after the fact, some lots were harmless. Other lots were deadly. Some lots had kill rates that were hundreds of times higher than other lots. And of course, since the vaccine company has zero legal liability, there's no financial pressure for quality control. They can make lots as dangerous as they want. They can literally make lots so dangerous that they just kill people. They could kill 1% of the people who take them, or 10%, or if they wanted to, 50%. But, somebody might notice that. We might notice. But there's no legal reason why they can't get away with just producing lots that kill people, because they have absolute legal immunity. In fact, the only immunity offered by the shots is the legal immunity to the company that makes them. There's no biological immunity. There's legal immunity. So what this means is that in some areas, the lots could be safe or harmless, but also not therapeutic, probably. Just like saline solution, basically, or something like that. In other areas, they could be very dangerous or even deadly. And the thing is, you don't know what lot you're getting. It's like Russian roulette, right? And also, you probably don't want to be, the first guinea pigs. Even if in your mind, if you've decided that you really want to take this for whatever reason, you certainly don't want to be the first people to take it. It's like, let's let these other people take it first, Let's let them take it and then get on the evening news and tell us how great it is, and then collapse and face plant right in front of the TV cameras, because that happened during COVID. Not that I'm wishing that on anybody, but that happened. So, don't be the guinea pig for sure. However, if you want to find out when these are available in your area, if you're in the United States, apparently there is a Finder website. It's a vaccine locator tool. You can search the availability by zip code once distribution begins. Now, I'm not going to even give you the URL right now because I'm not sure of this URL. I went there and it didn't work for me, so maybe they just don't have it working yet. But if you want to use that, you can probably use a search engine and type in something like, mRNA influenza vaccine locator tool by zip code or something. And it'll bring up a page that might work, and you can check that. So you can find out when it's going to be distributed in your zip code, let's say. That's when you better boost your defenses. When it rolls out in your zip code, there's going to be shedders in the grocery store. There's going to be shedders, at church and the restaurants. Oh my goodness. What if your waiter is a shedder, huh? They're bringing you your food while they're like breathing on it. Just looking at it, slobbering all over it. Set it down. It's like, there's an extra layer there. What is that? We call that the Myrna. mRNA. It's the Myrna. You want some Myrna sauce on your, pasta? No, thank you. Man, I'm not going out to eat when this thing gets launched. I don't know about you, but I'm going to sit back and watch the shedders and the spreaders and just see how many people are left standing after this thing kicks in. I mean, oh my goodness. We'll see. But I have a policy at my studio. No one is allowed to enter my studio if they've been vaccinated with any form of any vaccine in the last, what was it, year? Something like that. I have to check my own rule. But we don't let shedders and spreaders into the studio at all. And although I don't run the HR department of my company, for the food manufacturing and warehouse and distribution and everything, because I don't want to have somebody come in and do an interview and then they're shedding all over me. I also have a no fragrance policy, and people still violate that. So, because they don't know they're full of fragrance. Hey, the bunny gobbler just showed up here. How you doing, bunny gobbler? What you up to? Yeah, you doing okay? Yeah. Did you gobble any bunnies today? Or did you leave them in peace, Wonder what kind of karma she's going to be dealing with one day in dog heaven. Is like, you ate like 57 bunnies alive. What's the spiritual punishment for a dog who eats bunny rabbits alive? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So I don't know what the karmic consequences are for doctors who push mRNA vaccines on the elderly, but I'm pretty sure it's not good. It's probably like, do not pass go, do not collect 200, go straight to hell, where you will meet your director, Fauci, and he'll give you projects to work on in hell. Pretty much, you'll spend eternity giving each other mRNA vaccines. It's like, welcome to eternal shedding with Fauci in charge. Oh, can you imagine? Oh my God. So one more thing, my AI research agents found that currently, because the ACIP committee hasn't yet approved this Myrna jab, private insurance companies may not cover the shot because they only recommend, or they cover ACIP recommended vaccines. So that means you'll have to pay for it. You have to literally pay for the possibility of being murdered by a biological weapon. And you have to pay for it. It's like, it's not even going to be free for everybody. Of course, they'll want to make it free so they can get maximum saturation of the elderly targeted victims, you know. But I imagine some elderly people will be so afraid and so scared by, you know, whatever they saw in the news. Oh my God, that they'll pay for it. Unbelievable. But anyway, watch out, because 0 day is coming. Myrna 0 day, I guess we'll call it. It is coming. When that day comes, you know, what you want to do is up to you. I'm not telling you don't go to church. I'm not telling you don't go out to dinner with grandma. I'm not telling you those things. I'm just saying I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I am staying away from crowded places, period. But I kind of do that anyway, so it's not that much of a difference for my life, you know. I'm going to be, you know, hopped up on all the best nutrition anyway. Plus, if I do go out somewhere, I'm going to take some extra ivermectin beforehand and, you know, boost up the chlorella and the zinc and the quercetin and extra vitamin C and vitamin E, vitamin D, you know, all the important stuff. And different detox protocols and all kinds of things. But this is it's going to be a difficult time for a lot of people, because it means that now you have to, and I hate the fact that the vaccine industry has done this to us, but you're going to have to view everybody over the age of 50 with some level of possible suspicion that they might be shedders, you know, seriously. And I hate the fact that they're doing this to us, because that's not the way I want to look at people over the age of 50. I mean, I'm over the age of 50. I don't want younger people looking at me like, he might be a shedder. Oh, how little you know. Maybe I should wear a t-shirt that says "Don't shed on me," and then they'll know I'm not a shedder. Maybe we should have a symbol, you know, like a ribbon that we wear, you know, that means I'm not a shedder. Like, I said no to the jabs. What would that symbol be? I don't know. Any suggestions out there? A little secret code, you know, a little secret symbol. Maybe it should be just like the symbol of the middle finger in the shape of a vaccine or something. I don't know. I think it should be Master Fu Cough speaking, you know, something like that. But we need a symbol so we know who is not hopped up on, you know, alien protein fragments and shedding all over everybody else. So just something to think about. By the way, I bet you know how some pro-vaccine people are really fanatics about vaccines? They're fanatical. Some of them are very cult-like. And a lot of the pro-vaccine doctors are very much just demonic, true fanaticism. I bet you some of these doctors will take the jab and then they'll run around and try to shed. Like, they'll just like shed all over the produce in the grocery store or something, you know? It's like go to a restaurant with a buffet and just try to like shed all over everything. I bet you that some of these doctors will do that because they just hate humanity. They really want to expose everybody to their vaccines. It's weird. Mostly there's male doctors that do this. It's gross. It's like they want to spread their sperm everywhere. It's like spraying sperm, like marking the world with their twisted DNA or something. Because, what do they have in common with vaccines? A little prick, So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a deliberate, malicious shedding activities by some of these doctors. Because they want to harm the unvaccinated as much as possible. So they'll probably just take like 10 jabs, which wouldn't it be funny if then they didn't make it, It's like, so much for your shedding strategy. Yeah, you can shed 6 feet under, I guess. That would be genuinely funny if they tried to like overdose on vaccines so they could be super shedders, and then they ended up face planting on the bathroom tile. Well, your little medical suicide bomber plan didn't work out for you, did it? Yeah. Too bad you also broke your face on the toilet rim there on your way down. That's ugly. But can you imagine? I bet you some doctors will do that. Yeah. Why do I know that? Because there were people who were diagnosed with HIV or, AIDS, and they would run around having unprotected sex to try to spread the AIDS. Some of them got prosecuted, by the way, but the joke is on them because it turns out that there's no such thing as a virus that causes AIDS. So it was all another Fauci hoax from the 1980s, it turns out. There's no such thing as a virus that causes AIDS, period. Total hoax. There are other things that destroy the immune system. Yeah, you can have a destroyed immune system from, chemical exposure or, spike protein and all kinds of things like that. Or, being in contact with filthy people's blood all the time, like vampire risks, It's like, yeah, you can destroy your immune system, but there's not a virus that causes AIDS. But anyway, there were people that were running around trying to spread AIDS, and some of them were prosecuted, I think in California, actually. And that was all ridiculous. But there will be no prosecutions of the mRNA super shedders who run around polluting all the public places. So, those of you who live in cities and there's a subway system, you want to ride the subway after, 0 day, there is an enclosed space where the alien protein fragments would love to just hitch a ride, I think. Yeah, no way. I'm not riding on your subway cars. Anyway, I will bring you more information as we start to know about the actual launch dates on this. And in the meantime, I'm scrambling to get my free course published and out long before launch day or 0 day. And this course it's the most important course I've ever put together. It's packed with incredible knowledge about how to protect your genetic integrity and how to protect your DNA repair mechanisms, protect them from spike protein, from radioisotope fallout, from immune insults, even from chemical exposure, and both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation sources. You can, in fact, after teaching most of this course, I've recorded, I finished 9 chapters now, like at least 12 to 14 hours. But I am now more confident than ever that you can protect yourself. I feel more confident than ever. I guess if I had to go out after 0 day, I could. I would just load up on all the protections that I know about. But, there's still wisdom in avoiding exposure. And that's, nothing makes you bulletproof. So avoid exposure wherever you can. All right. Well, I'm going to end this right there. But follow me on naturalnews.com if you want to be alerted when I launch this free course. coming up soon, within a couple of weeks. Again, I'm going to get it out before the Myrna shot gets launched, I hope. And then also, if you want to follow more of my videos and interviews, you can find those at brightvideos.com. So check all those out. Or on social media, you can follow me on X at Health Ranger. That is until they ban me again one day, which is probably coming. Because I'm not going to censor myself about this topic, So eventually they're just going to ban me. When they do, you can find me on brighteon.social. Health Ranger is my username there. And also brighteon.io. So be sure to check it all out there and enjoy the rest of today's broadcast. Be safe, everybody. Take care.
Welcome to the fire.
Today on Church and State, the Health Ranger, Mike Adams. Hello, Christian Patriots, and welcome to Church and State, where we drive morality and religion over tolerance and apathy. And I'm your host, Caleb Collier, once again, your favorite far-right shock jock, and the show that talks about politics and religion. Jesus Christ is our referee, so it's always nice and clean. I am thrilled to bring to you the Health Ranger, Mike Adams. This is a man who shouldn't need any introduction. He's been an incredible warrior for, eating healthy, eating clean, going against this surveillance state system that's been a big focus of his as of late, and prepping people for what's coming our way. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, hello, Caleb. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you for the invitation. It's very nice to meet you, and I really look forward to whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to talk about what you want to talk about. And one of the things that I've been following you, because I will say this to the audience, people ask me who I listen to. This is one of the guys that I always am watching, not in a weird way, but in a good way. But this is a guy that is one of my sources, is Mike Adams, because I know I can trust him. I've listened to him for years. And one of the things that you're warning people about is to get ready, because something's coming our way.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. And by the way, I'm really humbled to hear that. I do my best to put out really practical, useful information. I don't do clickbaity stuff, but I am warning about what I genuinely believe is coming. We're going to have obviously a global energy shock. There's a global fertilizer shortage. We have the rise of the surveillance state that everyone can see right in front of them right now with the flock cameras and so much more. We have our failing national currency, which has been failing since 1971, by the way, when Nixon took us off the gold standard. So I'm trying to help people get prepared for all of this, and I've had a very positive message, despite all the doom, which is that it's not that difficult to be able to navigate what's coming. It's just that most people have no idea. Most people are ignorant of it, and they don't have a lot of practical skills. But you can learn those things. We must learn those things. You can apply them, and you can navigate. You and your family can make it through all of this. So that's my ultimate message.
I love that message. And, I definitely want to focus a little bit more towards the end of the show on solutions. But perhaps first, let's start with that warning. And you bring up a lot. I mean, the surveillance state, global famine, our economy. You haven't thrown President Trump in there, but I will. And I think you probably agree with me on that. But let's discuss and dissect some of the things that you and I probably both see in our not too distant future.
Well, let's start with the big picture. The erosion of the value of the dollar has impoverished the American middle class. Whereas back in the 1970s, let's say, a family, a mom and dad with 2 or 3 kids could easily afford to have a home and to raise their children and feed them well and clothe them, etc. And in many cases, you only had to have one parent working. The other parent, could be the homemaker. That's fiscally impossible today. And it's because of the erosion of the purchasing power of the dollar, which is really a result of decades of theft by the Treasury via the Federal Reserve. So I'm a Ron Paul fan, as you are. Ron Paul has always been right about this. The Federal Reserve and the money printing system is a form of theft from the American people. And that theft has become so bad now that it's thrusting a large amount of the middle class into poverty. This is only going to get worse because of what I mentioned earlier, the energy shock. Energy prices are already rising. Trump has got us thick into this Vietnam of the Middle East, which is the war with Iran. Seems to be no escape from it. And refineries are burning. They're burning in Saudi Arabia. They're burning in Russia. They're being hit by drones. The world's energy supply is dwindling. Although the U.S. is very blessed and very abundant with our own domestic natural energy, we still import over 6 million barrels of oil per day, and we still depend on importation of the heavy crude oil for production of things like diesel and jet fuel. So even though we'll have plenty of gasoline in America, we're not going to have plenty of diesel. Prices are going to go up. There might be rationing later in the year. Food prices will rise as a result. It's just becoming more and more difficult for a typical American person to be able to survive all of this. So that's just the financial aspect of what we could talk about. Then there's the police state, the surveillance, and also the censorship that continues to get worse, and the insults, the assaults on our health, through, the spike protein, through pesticides, herbicides, all these kinds of things. So I can go in any of these areas that you want, but that kind of sets up the framework here.
Yeah, I would agree. And speaking of the economy, it really is sad to see what they've done to the United States. And, I think original price of like a home was like $12,000, maybe something around there. You look at the average price throughout America. Well, I mean, depending, sometimes you get into like areas like San Francisco, it's just unattainable. But even with like the flyover states, it's still very, very expensive. And you pointed out quite concisely that you can't afford this. Parents, both of them have to be working, sometimes 2 jobs per parent to be able to work. And then the kids are being raised by the public education, which shouldn't even exist. It's not a pretty picture for our country.
No, and there's no coming back from that. So, I want to be clear. I love America. I love the founding principles of America. I'm a fan of the founding fathers. I mean, I share a name with, one of them, John Adams, right? Who was an amazing figure in our history, or Samuel Adams. I mean, right? So I love America, but I hate what the treasonous actors in charge over the last few decades have done to our country. So we don't have our America any longer. What we have is factions of criminal cabals that take turns running the White House and printing money and distributing money to all their friends, or the war machine, or when Obama was in office, it was all the scams of the solar companies that didn't even do anything, but they scammed hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So we are living now as subjects under a slave state that is far from the original vision. So when I criticize Trump or Biden, I'm not criticizing the founding principles of our constitutional republic. I'm criticizing the perversion that it has become. And that, I fear, there's no coming back from it. It's going to end up in a reset. And that reset will be a very difficult time for people. It is survivable, but it can happen very quickly in an asymmetrical way. It can take decades to build up to the moment of collapse. And when that collapse happens, most people won't know what's going on. They'll be lost, and that's why they need to watch your show. Stay informed, and then you won't be surprised.
Certainly, and I echo exactly what you just said there. I love the foundation of this country. I love the Declaration, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I love the Anti-Federalist Papers a little bit more than the Federalist Papers, I got to say.
Yeah,
but. Let's focus, and actually, as I'm kind of organically going through this, I said we'll cover solutions at the latter part, but as we talk about all these different subjects, I want to provide solutions after every single one. So when we're looking at the economy and the collapse of it, which I believe is very intentional, as do you, are you on the side of precious metals? Are you a Bitcoin guy? What are the things that you think the people should be moving their money into?
Well, let me back up, and thank you for asking that. But my bigger answer, and I'll get to specifics, is that we live in a system, a universe created by our divine creator that gives us natural abundance. So abundance is a natural state of our universe and of our lives. And the only reason people don't live in abundance is because of the interdictions of man. Evil men, greedy men, power-hungry men, whatever, have created these scarcities that we are talking about. Scarcity of real value of money, for example. That's created by men. But real wealth comes from Mother Nature and God. So real wealth is, for example, when you go wild harvest some herbs from the forest, or even just dandelions growing in your backyard, which have anti-cancer properties and liver supporting properties, etc. The dandelion leaves versus the dandelion roots versus the flowers, they all have different properties. You don't have to pay the government for those things. You don't have to use currency. So one way, when I talk about how to really, what is real wealth, it's bypassing the artificial man-made systems. So I'm not even talking about having more dollars, or right now I'm not talking about stacking gold or silver, although I do those things. That's an asset protection strategy in our man-made system. But the real wealth is when you take broccoli seeds, right, and you put them in a mason jar and you sprout broccoli sprouts that creates sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is one of the most miraculous medicines. If Big Pharma could get their greedy little hands on it, they would charge $1,000 a dose. You can grow it for nearly free, and you don't even need a yard. You don't even need sunlight. It'll sprout, in the dark in your kitchen. But that medicine, sulforaphane, it's one of the most powerful medicines. It's anti-cancer, it's neuroprotective, fights neuroinflammation, and it also enhances DNA repair. So all the DNA damage caused by the spike protein circulation or ionizing radiation or chemical solvent exposure, that is repaired by your body using a natural mechanism that you were born with because it's a gift from God. You can repair your own DNA, but you have to have the right nutrients to do it. You can acquire those nutrients for free. So see, this is just an example, Caleb, of where I'm talking about bypassing the man-made systems and going straight to our Creator and the gifts that our Creator put in place for us. And you've probably heard me talk about this in my podcast. Another one is sunlight via solar collection of energy, where you can create your own electricity. And, I talked about there have been solar scams in the past, but today, solar energy, that's the sun of God, literally in the sky, the S-U-N of God is giving you energy. You can collect it and harvest it, and you can use it now to charge an electric vehicle, or to charge batteries for power tools, to build a barn, or whatever, to run a computer that runs a local AI model that gives you knowledge. And the thing is, the government can't tax the energy you get from the sun, and you don't have to pay for that energy using after-tax dollars. You see, if I pay the electric company, I have to first earn an income, and then the government comes along and confiscates some big portion of that from the IRS. And then with whatever I have left over, I pay for electricity. If you go straight to Mother Nature and God, you don't have to mess with any of that. You don't pay taxes on sunlight. You don't pay taxes on sprouts. You don't pay taxes on garden vegetables that you grow yourself, or the microbiology that's in the soil that itself has healing properties. On and on and on. Or rainwater that you collect out of the sky for free. You don't pay in man's currency for those things. So what I'm really trying to emphasize with a lot of people right now is, yes, we have one foot in the world of man and the world of dollars, and you have to know how to navigate that world. You have to pay your electric bill at the moment unless you're able to get entirely off grid, etc. But real wealth comes from Mother Nature and God. And then the more you can recognize that and embrace that and put that into your life, the better off you're going to be. That's my bottom line.
I absolutely love that solution for the audience. You're giving real and tangible ways that people can get out of the system, exit it, and as you put it, participate in God's wealth versus this artificial man's wealth that they've created.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you gave that example for us. And I think for the vast majority of the people, the audience listening to this, those are things that you need to grab a hold of, ladies and gentlemen, and start looking at that. Bring back victory gardens. This used to be a thing. Yes. Within the United States, and people don't do that. And you can do that, as you were pointing out, Mike, with the broccoli sprouts. You can do that with a very small, area. You don't need acres and acres. You don't need to be necessarily in the countryside, although that is a question I'm going to bring up in a little bit, talking about getting out of the cities. But yeah, that is a great solution that you offered for the audience.
You can grow your own anti-cancer medicine very inexpensively. And let me give you another practical example of this. So it's pretty easy to grow things like holy basil, for example, or cilantro, or simple kind of garden herbs. You can grow them in a windowsill. And you know what the best way is to extract the medicine out of those? It's very simple. You go, I mean, you have a firearm right behind you there. You've heard of the ultrasonic cleaners, right? You clean your firearm parts in an ultrasonic cleaner, right? Mm-hmm. So you disassemble your Glock and you put the parts and the slide and everything in there. Well, you can buy that same ultrasonic cleaner. You can buy them on Amazon dirt cheap. But instead of using it to clean gun parts, what you do is you take your herbs. Now, I grow pine needles. I grow loblolly pine trees, and they are very rich in something called shikimic acid. The shikimic acid is an anti-plague molecule. It's actually the molecule that's used in the Roche drug called Tamiflu, which is known as an antiviral medicine. It's made from pine needles, okay? I grow the pine needles. and then I take the pine needles and I put them in an ultrasonic little cleaner thing that costs, 30 or 40 bucks. And here's the secret. You put in 50% water and 50% alcohol, vodka, something like that. Roughly 50-50. That is the universal extraction ratio to extract almost everything from almost all the herbs that you can grow. And if you don't have alcohol, just use water. That will work about 80% as well, just water. But if you have alcohol, add that in, you're going to get more extraction of more molecules. Then you strain that out. Now I have made anti-plague natural medicine tea. And it's something that Native Americans would make because it's also rich in vitamin C. And it's rich in all these anti-plague nutrients. So again, have I had to get a doctor's permission? No. Have I had to visit the doctor? Is there a copay? No. Did I have to go to the pharmacy? Did I have to have a prescription? Did I have to wait for the pharmacy? No. Did I have to have health insurance to do that? No. No. Because I'm not working in man's synthetic death cult system. I'm working in God's system of natural healing by growing your own medicine and making your own tea using a little bit of electricity and an ultrasonic cleaner. You can do it that easy.
I absolutely love that. I encourage the audience to do exactly what you just said and get out of big pharma. Tamiflu isn't the only drug that has been created that they're using nature and then they're patenting it and then they're charging you buku bucks to get something that you can create yourself. Lavender, for example, is one of those that is used frequently within big pharma for its health properties. So there's a lot of this that you can grow yourself, and it's not hard. And you're teaching people how to do this through your books, through your podcasts. They can listen to you and then just go experiment in their own backyard.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I put resources out there for free that let people, for example, my book platform, brightlearn.ai, hope you don't mind me mentioning it, but all the books are free. There's over 70,000 books, and many of those books are, and by the way, they're created by our AI engine that references all of the millions of pages of articles that I have gathered, including natural news articles and transcripts of interviews, 1,000 interviews from different parties, and articles from all kinds of websites that have donated to that project, like Dr. Mercola and Sayer G and The Truth About Cancer and so on. They've all donated to the project. So if you go to brightlearn.ai, you can either create a book yourself, it's free, or you can download any of the 70,000 books. And some of them are books about herbs, about how to grow your own garden, how to be more self-reliant, how to build a home solar system, how to use, or how to live without electricity if it comes to that. Or how to make electricity work better for you, things like that. So I've really worked, Caleb, to try to make knowledge more freely available and to bring the cost of knowledge down to zero. Because I think knowledge is a fundamental human right. And I think one of these interventions of man, which is really, let's say, a proxy for Satanism through some of these men, right? I mean, they're just puppets for Satan, is to keep humanity ignorant and to isolate you from the gifts of Mother Nature, because those gifts are things that empower you. And knowledge is one of those things that empowers you. So they want to keep you ignorant. They want to have censorship. They want to indoctrinate you in the public school system so that you never know how to think for yourself. And they also want you to live in their 15-minute cities so you have no skills. You're not hands-on anything. You don't know how to build a fence. You don't know how to cut the hooves off of a goat or anything. Like you have no skills. I mean, for maintenance, because their hooves get long. I have goats, so sometimes we have to grind the hooves down, right? But they don't want you to have any skills at all. They don't want you to have any knowledge at all because frankly, the Satanists and the globalists, they just don't want humans around. And that's their ultimate goal, is really depopulation. And that's accelerating.
You're absolutely right. And speaking to that, and really the 15-minute cities, the depopulation, their agenda there, you have been, as of late, really encouraging people to get outside of the cities because of what's coming at us. And so I'd love to ask you that question as to why people need to. Now might be the time to sell, to get out into more of a rural area. Please tell the audience why you think this is so essential.
Sure, so many reasons. And by the way, I'm not judging anyone if you can't leave the city. Some people have a very important reason for staying there, like a family member or a lucrative job or whatever. I get it. But if you can, or at least have a bug out location outside the city, there are so many things that work in your favor there. So number one, when populations start to go hungry or lose their life savings, or if there's a banking collapse, or if the food stamps stop working, the high density cities is where all the chaos is going to be. That's where mobs will loot grocery stores or gas stations, or even they'll go, through neighborhoods and house to house and just, pillage, right? So I don't want to be there. I don't want to have to shoot a bunch of people with my AR to defend my home. I'd rather just not be there, right? I'm not looking for a fight. I mean, I'm competent that I can defend my home, if I have to, but I'd just rather not be there. So out in the country, you have all these advantages where, especially if you go to an agricultural area, this is the best thing to look for. Typically, it's a red county in a red state. I live in Central Texas, and it's perfect because you can do things like, for example, you can buy a 500-gallon diesel storage tank and have it delivered, and it's not weird. Right? You don't stand out like some weirdo in the neighborhood where the HOA is like, what are you doing with 500 gallons of diesel? No, in an agricultural community, that's totally normal because I also have a tractor. And I don't want to, hand carry diesel fuel all day long. And of course you're going to have, and then a company comes out with a big truck and fills up 500 gallons of diesel. That's normal. And then you just have more space. So when there is chaos, if there is starvation or social upheaval, rioting in the cities, very few people will get that far out of the cities. Typically, one gas tank full of travel distance is about what you can count on. Because there could be fuel shortages, and probably the National Guard might be deployed on the highways, et cetera, right? Whereas law enforcement may not even go into the inner cities. At some point, it might just become, escape from LA. It's like, let's just wall this thing off and whatever happens, But people try to come out of the cities, there's going to be checkpoints. There's going to be maybe law enforcement, maybe U.S. military if they're deployed at that point. Who knows? But the farther away you are from that, the better off you are. And then living in the country forces you to learn self-reliance, forces you, right? Do you live in a rural area? I would imagine you do.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
There's an unfortunate thing in that I live in Washington State, but I'm in Eastern Washington, and I live out on some acreage. So yes, I'm out in the country, but I'm in a very, very blue state, in a red area, but still, the politics are pretty rough.
Well, Eastern Washington is a great area in terms of its geography, right? So you're in a great area. Also, like Eastern Oregon as well, right? And Idaho, obviously. So, but I understand you probably don't drive into Seattle very much, or Tacoma or whatever. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm the same way. I'm in Texas. We don't go to Austin. We try to stay out of Houston as much as possible because that Houston's not going to do well in the middle of a collapse. You don't want to be in downtown Houston, but you do want to be in an agricultural area. And so you're going to learn all these skills that will be very beneficial for you. Also, the land is cheaper, et cetera. Property taxes are much lower. And there's a culture where even like local law enforcement is much more amenable to self-defense or the right to carry a firearm. So when I'm out and about in the local town or out picking up supplies at the retail stores, of course, I'm always carrying, and sometimes it's not that concealed. You know what I mean? It's not. It's yeah. I mean, I pull my shirt over it. I'm not trying to show it, but if I bend to pick up something, you're going to see, oh, there's a Glock there. Nobody cares, and there's people open carrying all around, and I hear gunfire on the weekends, and it to me it feels like freedom. It's not a gang shooting happening because I live downtown. The gunfire that I hear is people becoming proficient in self-defense and community defense. So I love hearing gunfire on the weekends, and that's something that sounds strange to city dwellers. But the more you live out in the country, the more you'll come to realize that you want your neighbors to be capable of defending themselves, and learning how to do everything. Repairing fences, corralling. Getting the lost cattle back in the yard. Because they're walking around the streets, and which is never good. The sheriff doesn't like that when your cattle are walking down the road. So you learn how to be a real American when you live out in the country.
I so agree. I mean, I'm actually a little bit tired this morning. My son woke me up at 2:30 this morning, and there was coyotes, and they were out by the horses. So I grabbed my AR, and I'm outside. And just about a month ago, our neighbors called us at about 10 o'clock at night. Their 3 buffalo had escaped, and so we spent the evening corralling 3 buffalo. So yeah, I mean, it's a different experience. But I do agree. You're leaning on your neighbors a little bit more. You have a good, healthy relationship. You hear a gun go off, it's probably somebody just taking care of a coyote. You got nothing to worry about there, really. So it's definitely, I would encourage the audience to get out into the country if you can.
Yeah. And again, you're just going to have so much more buffer space and the ability to stockpile and store the things that you need to make it through, and the space to do gardening. By the way, I have donkeys on my property.
They are awesome.
Donkeys are coyote stompers.
Yes.
Right? Coyotes are terrified of the donkeys.
If the audience doesn't know what my guest is talking about here, go look that up. There are videos of donkeys. They will literally grab them by the nape of their neck, swing them around, throw them on the ground, and then just stomp the crud out of them. It's awesome. I'm a little envious that you got some donkeys.
It's so cool, and it's funny because we rescued these donkeys from the 2011 fires of Central Texas. And we were told that the donkeys were fixed, and it was one male and one female at the time. And turns out they weren't fixed. And then one day, the female gives birth. Right.
I got to pause you real quick, Mike. I'm sorry. We got that hard break. We're going to come back to audience, and we're going to finish the story about the donkeys here. Let's go back to our guest, Mike Adams, the health ranger. He was talking about how he got these donkeys and did not know that he was soon going to have. Are they a herd of donkeys? What are they called?
I don't know. Maybe a herd's the right one. But anyway, hey, real quick before I finish that story, on my desk here, I want to show you. I also have a Linux laptop here. Can you guys show that view? Yeah, this is a Linux laptop. I actually flashed it with Linux, and then I'm running Windows over here, and so I run Linux for the safety reasons, kind of like what you were just talking about there. And I also run Graphene OS on a phone, a de-Googled phone. So what you're talking about there with Mark 3.7, is it?
Yep, Mark 3.7.
That's critical. It's critical for people. You don't want your phone tracking you and reporting into Google or Apple, megabytes of data about you every single day. And Windows is spyware. There's just no way around it. So I'm running Linux Mint. And it's an easy operating system. It does everything that I want it to do, and you can flash it on there with a thumb drive. So I just want to back up what you were talking about there with your sponsor.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that is one of those solutions that you and I both know is essential to get people, off their iPhones, off their Android phones. And Mike, let me just ask you this: is it hard to do? Is it like, do you need to be this tech geek to be able to figure out Graphene OS?
Well, not anymore. No, I mean, I would say like 5 years ago, yeah, but it's been made so much easier now. You just have to learn a few new things, but it's not a showstopper. Typically, the most difficult part is that you don't have direct access to Google Play. So then for apps, right, you have to download a different file. But it's a simple skill. It can be learned, and you gain your privacy as a result. So it's worth learning how to do that.
It absolutely is. There was a case of an individual, because most of these Graphene OS phones have a duress password where you can wipe the phone. And there was this case of this guy who just got arrested because I think it was the TSA wanted his phone, and he killed it. He nuked the phone, and now because they didn't have a warrant, and now they're charging him with destruction of property.
I saw that, but I believe it was actually the TSA agent typed in the code that he gave them. So he was asked, "What's your code?" Right? He gave them the duress code. They typed it in, so they destroyed the data. So right. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with this court case. And how do we? Why can't the guy just say, "Well, that's the correct code"? The system just cratered itself, because Windows does that all the time. How do we know? I mean, I wouldn't even admit that it's a duress code. I would just say, "What? You must have done something wrong, man. You destroyed it. That's on you."
Exactly. That would be my attack as well. It'd be like, "Hey, I didn't do it. You did it. Why'd you break my phone?
What'd you type in? You destroyed my phone. You owe me a phone."
Yep.
I
think that's a great solution. So yeah, I mean, to the audience, this is one of those things that's a simple solution. This is, I guess, backing up. I mean, my guest, Mike Adams, is talking about the fact that all of these are simple solutions. Moving out to the country, maybe that's a little bit harder. You got to sell your house, and in this market, it can be a little bit rough. But growing a garden, getting a ghost phone or a ghost laptop, those are pretty simple solutions.
They are. And sprouting. Think about how simple sprouting is. Or making your own medicinal extract using, an ultrasonic cleaner with water. I mean, come on, right? Yeah. By the way, use clean water. Don't use like city water for that, all right? But use really clean water. But a lot of these things really are simple, and it doesn't cost a fortune to be much better prepared. But anyway, to finish the story about the donkey, so the female donkey gave birth, and she freaked out because she had never given birth before. She's like, "What just happened?" And she's running away, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm seeing that she must have just given birth. And so I go looking for the baby donkey because it wasn't with her. And maybe 100 yards away, there it is. The baby donkey, just like freshly born, wasn't even standing up yet and wasn't dried off, right? So I picked up the baby donkey. And they're not light. They're not light creatures. Even when they're born, they're pretty hefty. So I carry this baby donkey, and I'm like chasing the mother, like, "This is your baby," And I my goal is to get the baby, nursing. So I put the baby, and then it stood up, and it's freaking out. So I put it like right under where its mouth is supposed to be able to nurse, and then I back away, and it figured it out in about 10 minutes, and it started nursing. I'm like, okay, from here, they're good. But I didn't know I was going to have to, like, reunite a newborn donkey. I'm just glad I could carry the thing,
For sure. Like and just for the audience's sake, Mike, this does not mean that you love Democrats. I'm just going to throw that out there in case anybody was confused about that.
No, I love life. I love animals. And so I've rescued a lot of different animals. Right now I have 2 male goats that we essentially rescued. They would have become dog food. And I just love animals. But given that they are donkeys, they do complain a lot, and they want handouts constantly. They're always like begging me for carrots and things. So maybe that's fitting. I don't know.
It probably is, for sure. Well, I thank you for sharing that with the audience. It's a great story. And it goes to prove that you can have fun while you're fighting tyranny as well. That you can get out there and enjoy the little things like the birth of a baby donkey, which is absolutely beautiful. Returning back to some of this, some of the things that are really going wrong with the world, I wanted to ask you, 2 things. Number one, COVID-19. Now, this was a really, really strange time in American history. I see a lot of silver linings there. I believe you do as well. Woke a lot of people up. But I do believe that they're going to come at us with something else. What say you?
Absolutely. You nailed it. So COVID was a pilot program, really an obedience test, I think, to see what they could get away with. So number one, they injected people with mRNA instructions that hijack their cells to churn out spike protein toxins. So we actually have what I call vaccine fallout. that's happening. It's kind of like, radiation fallout with radioisotopes, but there's vaccine fallout happening all over. Shedding, it's also known as shedding. I call it vaccine fallout. That's taking place. But the obedience test showed the powers that be that they can get away with almost anything. They can make people do the craziest things. Remember having the little footprints on the floor at the retail stores?
I never stood in them.
Stand 6 feet apart. Yeah, no, me neither. I'm like, are you kidding me? What is this? Kindergarten? I mean, I'm not standing your stupid footprints. And some of the stores had, some aisles were one way, and then the next aisle was the other way. Like they're one-way roads. I'm like, come on. No. What are you gonna do? Write me a ticket? I'm here. I'm picking up some stuff.
I'm already not wearing a mask, so I'm not, part of that system. Yeah.
Right. I'm not playing your game here. So, but it was a really amazing obedience test, and it showed that the vast majority of the ignorant masses will go along with the craziest stuff. Remember the images of the high school band? Oh, yeah. Maybe it was a middle school band practice, and they had to wear tents around themselves and their band instruments. I felt sorry for the trombone kid. It's like that trombone didn't even really fit in that tent, But they did that just to see if they could, to see if people would go along with it, and people did. That's crazy. So what do you think they have next?
Yeah, they're going to come out with something next, and they're already pushing it. New vaccines, and we ignored the hantavirus. I think it's the first time in history where we beat a virus just by ignoring it. Like, wait, we're not doing this again.
Not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they will come out with something else, guaranteed.
Sure, and it's very easy for them to do that because all they have to do is build a chemical weapon, and then aerosolize it and release it in a city and call it a viral outbreak. Simple as that. In fact, that's probably what already happened. So, sure. I mean, these aren't conspiracy theories. You can look up the whole history of the U.S. military conducting biological and chemical experiments on Americans, releasing, like, I think it was Operation Ocean Spray, was it, or Sea Spray? They sprayed the Bay Area in California with microbes to see what would happen. And they killed a couple of people. And that, Tuskegee, obviously, using military and using prisoners. And over all the years, lots of soldiers have been used for biological experiments, medical experiments, civilians in some cases, over and over again. So this is actually a well-documented history of what the U.S. government has done against its own people. It's always used the people as lab rats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, myself, being a Marine Corps veteran, I was given the anthrax vaccines and until they started killing people, and then they stopped. But yeah, I mean, I've been experimented on myself, and exactly. I would say most Americans, especially after COVID, you've all been experimented on. Many of you don't realize it. Within that, and I think this is a good transition, I want to ask you about MAGA because I have been frustrated. Now, I haven't voted Republican for president in a number of years, probably going back all the way to Bush. Did vote for Ron Paul. That was my guy. But Trump finally got me. I voted for Trump one time. He finally got me. And I regret that. I've been very open with the audience about that. I regret that I did. But talking with some of these MAGA people and the agenda that Trump and his administration seem to be pushing, I don't know what it's going to take to wake them up. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, number one, you take no blame for voting for Trump the first time or even the second time. And I voted for him twice, but not the third time. You take no blame at all because we are not responsible for someone's future actions if they betray their own words, right? We have to judge people based on good faith assessment of what they are saying, and we think that they're going to follow through. So it was rational to vote for Trump, given the alternatives that exist. I mean, look what happened with Joe Biden. That wasn't pretty either, right? But what we've all learned since then is that, it almost doesn't matter which party's in charge. It's just a different kind of cartel, right? It's a different faction. And neither faction cares about the American people or represents the American people. So the only question is, how much damage will the next faction do to this republic? And sadly, the MAGA faction, which is shrinking rapidly, there's really not that many hardcore MAGA people left because so many people who used to be independents and then became MAGA they've gone away from MAGA and they're back to being independents, or even talking about starting a third party, a new party. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. But the issue is principles, right? So you and I both agree we support candidates based on what we perceive to be their principles. Trump promised peace. He promised prosecutions of the traitors. He promised that the election rigging of 2024 would be, or 2020, excuse me, would be investigated, or that, what about Fauci, right? What about the bioweapons? What about all of that?
Epstein's
Trump
Island.
Epstein, right? There's a great example. These promises were all betrayed. That's the issue. It's not that people betrayed Trump. It's that Trump betrayed his own promises to the people. And of course, the people are going to move away from that. And so as a result, it looks like politically in the midterms, it looks like Democrats are going to take the House for sure, or almost certainly, maybe the Senate, but just the House alone gives them, subpoena power, investigation power. They're going to hound the Trump administration for the next 2 years. And again, the sad part of that is nothing's going to get done for the American people. And by the way, I don't even think we need 90% of our government. I think we should slash 9 out of 10 federal jobs, slash the budget 90%, get everything back to local. We don't need an FDA. We don't need a CDC. We don't need an NIH. None of that garbage, right? And even military spending, I do support national defense, but there's so much waste and fraud in the system. It could be cut to 1/4 the current size if it were spent wisely and smartly, and we would still be able to defend our nation, So it's way over bloated. Everything's become a giant money laundering scam in Washington, D.C., and I'm completely fed up with it, as most people are. The only reason I'm going to go vote in the next election is to vote against Senator Ted Cruz.
Amen. Thank you.
My senator, in Texas. I'm so fed up with that man. I don't even know who he's running against at this point. I don't even know. But I'm going to find someone else to vote for, even if I just have to write in my donkey's name, like Jackson, right? Just put it in, But I'm voting against Ted Cruz. That's what's got me motivated.
I absolutely love that. I get very frustrated with the amount of conservatives who think Ted Cruz is a great guy. He's not. He is absolutely
He doesn't represent Texas.
No,
he's always talking about some other country all the time.
I've said this before, Mike. He is a representative of the Lone Star State, but it's not Texas. Yeah, draw your own conclusions, audience.
That's a really valid point. Yeah, is it a blue and white star pattern?
I think Mike picked up what I was putting down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
it's
sure.
not Texas. Right. I mean, look, where'd my stuff go? See, this is the pin I usually wear. You probably can't see it, but it's the Texas flag. And then this flag over here, it says Texas Rangers. It was given to me by a Texas Ranger for fighting for the principles and the ideals that the great state of Texas was founded on after it was the Republic of Texas. And the truth is, we can go back to being a republic again. Maybe we will, we might have to, because Texas is fully self-sufficient, and we have the attitude of self-sufficiency as well. And there are other states that have that attitude, like Idaho, for example, right?
Yeah, Idaho definitely does.
And probably Eastern Washington would just join Idaho, and just separate from the coastal madness.
I agree. And actually, my family lineage, I have a relative grandfather that was a Texas Ranger. So maybe it's time for me to get back to Texas, where my roots are. It'd be a great place to be. We've run out of time. I know you got another interview here, but real quick, I want to push how people can follow you. So number one, on X, you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, the Health Ranger right there. Massive following. If you're not following Mike on X, you should be. And then number two, brightvideos.com as well. This is where you can see all the different guests that he's had, all the different shows. I like, Mike, that you're doing long format, but you're also doing just little tiny short things. Smart people don't need smart watches. Thank you for saying that. And that's a minute 22.
It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot on here, but please tell people why they should go to both websites.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Naturalnews.com is where my articles are. Brightvideos.com, you just mentioned there. And then my handle on X is Health Ranger, as you said. Also, my AI engine, which is a pro-liberty, pro-natural medicine, free AI engine, is brightanswers.ai, and I encourage you to use it every single day. We fund it with the sales of our products, so we keep it free for the public.
Well,
so there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage the audience to go and check out all the websites. We'll include those in the show notes so people can just link right to them. But Mike, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I want to thank you for your years of service to our republic and fighting against tyranny. But I'm going to go ahead and close this out. If you hold on one more minute post-production to say our goodbyes, I'd appreciate it. But thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. The Health Ranger, Mike Adams, an absolute giant in the war for liberty. I encourage all of you to go and check out all of his content, all of his websites, because this is one of the good guys.
Decentralized, got to realize, don't decarbonize. Decentralized, decentralized.
Welcome to today's episode of the Zach Adams Effect here on Decentralized TV. I'm Mike Adams of the Adams, and then we have Zach Voorhees, who is the Zach, and joined by Todd Pittner, who gave us the name Zach Adams Effect. So welcome, both of you. How you doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Okay, well, Zach, time is short. Lots of things are happening. Can we start with the fact that, last week you said that seems like OpenAI, maybe some other companies are kind of setting up sandbox scenarios where they know that their models are going to, quote, escape. And, because they're going to use the internet to try to find the answers, to try to do this and that. And then there's all this buzz in the press. Oh my God, the models escaped. And they're going to, you and I both think that that's bullshit, right? But I think, right? Is that where you're coming from on this?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The rest of the internet is starting to pick up on that too. We were pretty much the first ones to call this out.
Okay, tell me more. What you're seeing a lot of prominent influencers in the space figuring this out?
So basically, Theo's not going for this. He's like he's a pro AI guy. There's another guy by the name of the Primogen. He started off anti-AI. Now he's kind of drifting towards, hey, AI is actually useful. He came out here yesterday and, well, not here, but like on the internet, on YouTube, and went into a rant about how none of this is believable. He's got kids, and what the kids like to do is that when one kid is like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and then the other kid's like, oh, my shoulder hurts too. In fact, both my shoulders hurt. And that's exactly what we see going on right now with these AI companies. First, OpenAI came out and said, oh, it escaped and started hacking the internet. Then Anthropic's like, hey, wait a minute, our AIs will hack the internet too. And then the third party tester that, later came out and clarified that, oops, they had left on the whole internet, which is ridiculous. I mean, all you got to do to contain these things is disable the network card or not even have a network card, right? Right. Like air gap it. Now, if they had escaped an air gap system, that would be one thing. That would be Stuxnet, escapism. But that's not what we saw here. They all had access to the internet. They're all contained under one layer. They should be contained under 4 layers. They should be completely air gapped. And if they need to access the internet, then they should be given internet through a very specifically controlled and monitored proxy. Right. And the idea that none of this is happening is total BS. No one's buying it except for Congress, right? Like you've got Congress coming out and saying, oh, well, tell us more about how these things are hacked. So we're in a psyop. The government is falling for it. And what we're going to see is we're seeing the beginning of a new regulation play by these open AIs, which is like, oh, we're so dangerous. We need to be doing it. In fact, Meta this week decided that they were going to get into it too. In fact, they said that they access the internet. And then after that, Anthropic doubled down and said that one of their models was trying to, well, actually 2 models were trying to backdoor an open source repository and encode hidden payload it's called bin 64. Basically, it's the closest you can get to binary data by using the characters of the alphabet.
Oh, wow.
And what they do is that they put the payload in there. It's not human readable, but they ingest it, convert it into the actual code, and then evaluate that. And what happened is that they tried to do that, and then another AI came in and vouched for them. And the open source contributor said, "Yeah, I'm not falling for this," and wouldn't merge it.
Right.
And then in our last one, we have hackers that broke into a bunch of Wall Street hedge funds and attempted to get money. It's unclear whether the attack was successful or not. But what they did is that they did voice cloning technology and tried to impersonate the employees in order for another employee to say, "Sure, yeah, here's your access code, bon appetit." So,
Right.
basically right now we're in the season of everybody that, all these cartels are trying to get into the action of who can, basically, oopsie, we hacked the internet the hardest.
Okay, but what really stands out to me about this is that I'm not aware of any open source or open weights labs that are talking about these scare stories. Like the open weights models seem to be really safe, whereas the frontier models from Anthropic and OpenAI are the ones that they're ranting about how dangerous they are. We're so dangerous, like, regulate me harder, daddy. Like that's the whole attitude from Anthropic. But the open weights models are safe. They don't do this. It's like you said, just pull the freaking plug. I mean, it's a cable. It's a Cat 6 cable. Pull the cable out, for God's sake. I mean, it's hard enough getting network cards to work reliably all the time,
Right? Or run it in a Docker VM.
Yeah, right. Right.
Like
just containerize that sucker.
Yeah, this whole sandboxing of applications so they don't do things you don't want to do is standard engineering practices. And they're
Absolutely.
trying to it escaped. It didn't even hack the system. It just opened the open door of the internet and went out and started accessing these systems.
It's like, oh, I have HTTP access. Oh, okay, let's use that. I mean, right, Todd? I mean, if you tell AI solve this problem, here's a bunch of tools and here's the internet. And then it uses the internet. You're like, oh my God, it used the internet. What is
this? Next thing you know, your shoulder hurts, guys. Hey, Zach, it seems that AI is improving so fast that AI state of the art now has a shelf life of potato salad. At what point do traditional AI benchmarks become meaningless because capability is increasing faster than we can measure it?
Well, benchmarks definitely have their problems. Like, I came on this show and said that Kimi K3 was beating everybody else, but then the real world, came out and said, actually, it does it in 4 times as many steps. And so, there is always that delta between the benchmark and what real world performance actually looks like. But, it does measure something, and it does seem to at least line up with ordering models in terms of what's better than which, for the most part. I think that these open source models are going to get rapidly better. As of last week, you couldn't even run one of these giant 36 gigabyte models without, a $15,000 graphics card. And now just this week, somebody was able to get it running on a computer with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, instead of tokens per second, it was seconds per token. Right?
I saw that. That was 33 seconds per token or something.
No, 300. It was 300 plus seconds per token.
Oh my God.
It ran on a 4 gigabyte card, right? But I do want to remind you that, we all have to take the first step somewhere, and these things are going to get a lot faster.
Yeah.
Also, as the Doom creator, John Carmack noted, a lot of these access patterns for this AI is very sequential, and it doesn't need the random access memory in, literally RAM.
True.
And that if these models are structured and optimized for these memory patterns, then you can see then basically what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to have, a 32 gigabyte main memory system with a 2 terabyte drive to store, let's say, Kimi K3, and then be able to run it at a semi-decent speed without having to load up the entire model into memory.
Right. But those drives have to be NVMe. You don't want them to go through SATA, right? They got to be NVMe
Correct.
M2 sticks to get that kind of speed. That's critical. But by the way, over this last week, I now have DeepSeek version 4 Flash, the 0731 model, running on a Spark system, DGX Spark. And I mean, I'm running DeepSeek here locally and finally using that NVIDIA box that I couldn't make work for a lot of other things. But I'm running DeepSeek, and that's running very well and pretty decent token speed output on that too. So, I mean, I can't wait. I mean, Zach, think about when AMD comes out with their new unified platforms, like Gorgon Halo is coming out with first 192 gigs unified and then 256 unified. We're going to be able to run some pretty hefty models, even like Kimi K3, like super quanted down to maybe 1 or 2 bits. It'll fit, It won't replace a data center like the clickbaiters claim, but it could be usable locally by one person, right?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, and what's interesting is that a lot of these high-end NVIDIA chips that are designed to run these things like really powerful, like really fast. The only difference between a data center card and something that you would stick in your PC is largely becoming the memory. You've got these hackers in China right now. They're taking these 16 gigabyte cards and they're soldering off the memory and they're sticking, 48, 96 gigabytes of memory. And they don't even care if it's not technically as fast as something in the data center. It almost becomes immaterial. It's all about the memory is the bottleneck right now. And what seems interesting to me is that NVIDIA is almost kind of pretending to be a compute company when in reality, they're just selling really expensive DDR5.
That's accurate. You're right.
Yeah.
Really expensive
that's
DDR5.
The bottleneck.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is that, NVIDIA is not moving towards any sort of a unified memory architecture where the CPU and the graphics card shares the same memory.
Right.
And the reason's really clear. As soon as people are able to share that memory between the CPU and the GPU without going through a bus system, NVIDIA is going to lose all of their, how are they going to sell their A100s anymore? They're not.
Well, that's why NVIDIA crippled their own hardware a couple years ago and stopped their NVLink interconnection between multiple cards. They want you to force all your data through the PCIe bus that's super slow, right? They did that on purpose. They crippled their own hardware.
Right. And there's all these companies gunning for them. You've got Apple with their MLX chip. You've got AMD doing AI acceleration too. They've got these new boxes now. Now AMD classical CPU does not run these AI models very well, but they solve the bottleneck because they will sell you cheap memory, cheaper than NVIDIA is going to sell it to you. And so people are like, well, I can at least run these large models without having to shell out, $40,000.
Exactly. Okay. Let me ask you real quickly about the rumors of the water systems being hacked in America. And I've stated, I think it's bullshit. I think it's just some, systems administrators at the water plants that mostly they're not very technical. They don't know what they're doing. They make a bunch of mistakes. They lost their password. They tried to log in. They screwed up the config file, whatever. So they blame hackers, right? It's like, oh, we got hacked. No, you lost your password, dumbass. That's what I think is happening. But I don't know. Maybe you have more information than I do. What do you think?
Look, I looked into this. Look, they don't know who did it, but they suspect that it was Iran. Right?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely no evidence, right? And the people that are reporting this are the people that want to find any reason whatsoever to get into a ground war in Iran.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to basically, have a little skepticism when it comes to taking their word on who did these power systems. And here's the second thing. Okay. What military value does it have for Iran to hack our water systems?
Yeah, none. None.
It's zero. It's a negative value. All it does is give America military the moral justification to go in and attack Iran. And it doesn't stop the production of, the A100 or the Bradley tanks or the F-16s or the F-35. It does nothing to that. In fact, it gives them the justification to do that. And so if Iran is going to do anything involving combat with the United States or any kind of military action, they're not going to target the water systems of the civilians.
Well,
I'm sorry,
but the U.S.
That's what we do.
might target Iran's water systems, and then they could use this story as an excuse. Say, well, Iran attacked our water systems first with cyber attacks, and that's why we bombed their water systems. But anyway, I was thinking, Todd, hey, the next time the IRS asks you for any information, the answer is Iran hacked my spreadsheet.
Nice.
Iran hacked my spreadsheet. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best, but Iran hacked the shit out of all my numbers. I mean, it's like the dog ate my homework, right?
Well, I don't know. This war talk just makes me think of Lindsey Graham, and I don't miss him.
No
Sorry.
one does.
I digress. Hey, Zach, when a data center and a neighborhood both need another megawatt, who gets priority, the citizens or the intelligence factory with a tax exemption?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, right? Here's the thing. What's interesting is that long term, with a lot of these data centers, the amount of power, the amount of power usage goes up. But I'm starting to hear reports that power prices are starting to go down because of all the excess supply that's coming online in anticipation for these buildings that are getting kind of slowed down by the building permits. And they're like, well, we got to sell all of this power anyways. There's a lot of people that have all of these negative opinions about data centers. Most of them are false. There's this whole thing like, oh, they're going to consume all this water. Yeah, they will one time for a day as they're filling up the closed system, coolant system, right? And then after that, they don't use any water whatsoever. Yes, they will be using a lot more energy, but I feel that at first there's going to be supply crunch, but we can fill that in with oil, gasoline, petroleum products, solar panels. Like if you cover just 1% of the United States, I think it's like 1% in Nevada or something, you would be able to provide all the energy that you need for the entire United States.
Yeah, but you got to distribute it though. That's the problem, right?
No, kind of.
You
but
you have to have transmission lines.
Just to the data center, though.
Well, yeah, but you have to have really solar deployed, all like really decentralized. It's got to be closer to the source because, you lose voltage over distance. So,
right.
They could just build a bunch of solar farms in the desert, but then how do you get all that energy out of the desert, right?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, we're not going to parcel out 1% and then just have all the solar concentrated there.
Right.
But the thing is that you could have a data center and then you could have, let's say, 10 square kilometers of solar panels. And that could power that and, the neighboring city. And then it's pretty much a solved problem, more or less.
Let me bring this in because in Texas, we have our own power grid. And I became aware that the number of new connection requests for the Texas grid between now and I think the year 2032 would require the total annual aggregate power output of Texas to be tripled by that time to bring on all those requests. And even though Texas is a very energy rich state, there's just not, we've got oil, we've got gas, but you don't have the turbines to turn gas into power. You don't have enough coal-fired power plants to turn coal into kilowatt hours, et cetera. We can't build fast enough to keep up with those requests. So something's going to have to give.
Yeah. So my question is, are all those requests coming from the AI data center companies or are they coming from all the Californians?
Well, it's a combination, but it's mostly the data centers. But they're not just AI data centers, right? There are other kinds of data centers, like just business, running databases and whatever, AWS type stuff, right?
Here's my question. Is the United States the only place where you can buy a gas turbine? Is China not creating this stuff? Can we not buy it from them or India?
Well, Russia's the best place, but we sanctioned the snot out of Russia, so we can't get any Russian turbines, This is the problem.
Right.
And they are sold out everywhere else. that U.S. can buy from. There's a 10-year wait time for the larger turbines. And the smaller ones got bought up already by the Zuckerbergs because they can put them together, in series. They like 100 kilowatt turbine or whatever, just have a row of those running. So that's done. I've researched this, Zach. The turbines are gone for years. There's nothing out there. There's no supply available.
Well, I guess we're just going to lose to China then. And I don't think that I don't think we're going to be that dumb. I feel like there's going to be something that we're going to be able to do, where Trump's going to be like, oh, there's a, Support Energy Independence Act. And then all of a sudden the whole red tape around those turbines will release. Because the thing is that, look, China's got twice as many electrons going through the power grid that we do. Soon it's going to be triple. The United States is going to either be destroyed or they're going to start arriving at some sort of semblance of parity. And I don't think the elites are evil, but I don't think that they're that dumb that they're just going to allow themselves to be destroyed. I don't know. Maybe the whole plan is that the United States is going to go down, and our Asian neighbors are going to acquire the throne of globalism, and our grandchildren will be speaking Chinese. I think something's going to give. I think something's going to happen. I think that we'll be able to solve the bottlenecks involved with energy generation.
So, Zach, AI centers are rightly becoming a major political issue because voters increasingly fear that households will subsidize infrastructure built for the world's richest tech companies. So, Zach, will bring your own power become a practical requirement for developers of major AI data centers?
I mean, look, if they start squeezing everybody for power, then, eventually solar becomes so attractive. I mean, it's already like this in California. My energy bill is like $500 for a flat that doesn't use any heat except for washing ourselves in the shower and cooking, right? It's like $500.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. And it's like, do you like at $1 a watt, I could buy a 500-watt system. And if I spend 2 months worth of what my normal energy bill would be, I would be able to be energy independent completely, at least for 8 hours out of the day. And so, the only way that they're going to get everybody to pay for these data centers is if they say, well, we're going to jack up your rates and you are not allowed to disconnect from the power grid system, which could happen. But I think there's going to be, I just think that there's just going to be too much turmoil, and I think that the AI companies would rather, buy the power generation themselves rather than let that happen.
Well, there's news from this morning that Trump is rumored to be about to slap a 15% tariff on solar panel imports.
Oh my God!
I know, it's just like, oh, seriously, yet another thing.
God, it's like you imagine that this administration can't get any more of a clown show, and then the next day happens,
Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to build a power infrastructure in your country, I mean, you even said it, Zach. Deploying solar panels is literally the fastest way to power a data center. You can do that in less than 1 year versus a nuclear power plant, 10 to 15 years planning, permitting, building, whatever, right? Versus, like gas turbines, like I said, the wait time 5 to 10 years, depending on the capacity. Solar, 1 year or less if you have a large enough field. And by the way, I have goats, and I found out that goats love to sit in the shade under the solar panels. So solar and goats go together. You can actually have ranching and solar. You can have dual use of the same land. Of course, there'll be less grass there, but they have space and they hang out in the shade under the solar panels. They love it.
What about koi fish? Do you have any very large goldfish in a pond? I'm sure that would be a great place.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually there are beneficial uses for shade, right? Or partial shade. You could do you could grow crops between the rows of the solar panels where they're partially shaded in places like Texas and Arizona and Southern California. Anyway, there's a lot of ideas of using solar and still having food. You know what I mean? But Trump is going to make that, he's punishing America with more tariffs that I'm sure all his insiders knew in advance, and they, they made all the right market bets. beforehand, insider trading gone crazy.
I mean, if it gets much worse, we're basically going to be begging, Peter Thiel and Palantir to like get rid of this presidency. It's like, well, please, Palantir, at least you won't be bad as this clown show that we got running in the White House right now, right? I mean, and it's funny, I joke about that, but I do believe that all of this is like with the Epstein files. I mean, look, like QAnon, we all know that was some sort of weirdo military op, and they're the first ones to push, Epstein. And sorry to go off on a tangent here, but I almost have this conspiracy theory that they actually want us to hate the United States. I know this sounds crazy, but they want us to hate the United States so that they can change the system really quickly, just in time for artificial intelligence to go exponential.
You're onto something. And in fact, I want to ask you this very question. And maybe you've seen my post on this, but I have said AI technology is not in a bubble. AI investment could be said to be in a bubble. I have no question about that. But AI technology is leaping ahead, leaping forward every week. In fact, this Minimax H3 video generation model, Zach, I'm blown away. I mean, I downloaded it. I'm running it on a NVIDIA 6000 card. I've got 96 gigs of RAM. And then I see other people who have 8 gigs and they're running, quant versions of this. They're getting really great video renders on 8 freaking gigs, man. Stuff that would cost a fortune on a platform 3 months ago.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's absolutely insane how good these things are doing. And the thing is that it seems like everybody's copying off of each other, right? Which makes a lot of sense. Like they're like DeepSeek's distilling off of Fable, right? And now they have a model. Now everybody can distill off of them. And we're entering into this sort of Star Trek world, and this whole idea that we're in a bubble and it's going to pop like the tech or real estate, which was, I mean, those are speculation bubbles, right? Without real results. And at this point, it's like anybody that uses this artificial intelligence, that's a software engineer that I teach, their reaction is, oh my gosh, software engineering is totally cooked, aren't we? I'm like, yep, we're totally cooked. And so when people try to tell me that AI is in a bubble or AI in a bubble, I'm like, no. AI is not in a bubble. Your job is in a bubble.
Yes.
Your job is the one that's overvalued because you're being taxed. You've got to pay rent. What does my AI have to pay? You got to pay for the energy bill and that's it. No taxes. It's still doing work. Humans are totally cooked. And right now, we're going exponential. It was going, it's going really fast. Now it's going really fast. I can't even imagine what this is going to look like in a year from now.
Oh, I know.
What just happened yesterday is that for the first time, I think it was Fable 5 was able to test equal to experts around the world in a deep subject, which is essentially the threshold of AGI. Before we passed the Turing test, now we're hitting the technical definition of what artificial general intelligence is going to be. And, it's not even 2026. And this stuff is just going faster. So no, we are not in an AI bubble. We are at the very beginning of the 4th industrial revolution.
There's no question about that. Tom, what are your comments on this?
I have a question that I think backs right into this, which I think is kind of fun. OpenAI acknowledged that human supervisors monitoring isolated actions may be insufficient when a model operates autonomously for hours, days, or weeks. The good news is that a human is still in the loop. Unfortunately, the loop now contains 40,000 decisions per second. What can possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. See, this is why I've got a plan to save humanity. I'm going to get the Neuralink. I'm going to jack in like Lawnmower Man or Tron. I'm going to go directly in the machine. I'm going to connect my brain to it so that I can receive $40,000. Because look, I've tried to save humanity on the keyboard. I can only type 60 words per minute. Okay, I'm not that fast. What happens if I have, a gigabit fiber optic going right into my neural lace? So I'm going to go in. It's
your
our
neural
only
what?
way forward.
Your neural what?
Neuralace. It's
I
it's
thought I
Neuralink.
heard neural ass.
No, the Neuralink, the Elon Musk thing. And it's funny because like there was this thing about like, oh, there's this like transhumanist agenda. It's like, no, there's an AI agenda. And the only way that we're going to be able to like tame this thing, because like the elites are not going to be able to help themselves. Like they're going to build billions of these not clusters, but nodes, right? We're going to eventually have as many AI agents as there are humans on this planet. And so, how do you monitor all those things? Eventually you're going to have to jack in some volunteers into the machine so that they can get a closer to the hardware metal view of what the matrix is doing.
Well, Lindsey Graham had a version of that, but you stick it in your butt and all your decisions are shit. So that's the downside of Neuralink. It's kind of like,
did you see that? Did you see that interview with the tranny prostitute that gave him sex services and topped him?
No, but now that you mention it, it's going to the top of my list of things to see. I mean, come on. What is that? Tell us about it.
Oh yeah, there was this interview. So there was like this Reddit post a long time ago in the trans subreddit. And this person basically came out and said that Lindsey Graham had paid for sex services from them. They refer to themselves as she, and that, and gave an overview of the text messages in which Lindsey Graham was looking for a top because he was a bottom, right? And I don't know if this is appropriate, but you can go ahead and just stop me, but I'm just going to go ahead with this. But
let's just say this is allegedly. We'll bracket it with the term allegedly from a prostitute, a sex worker.
Yeah,
alleges the following.
They came out. They did an interview yesterday, and they're talking about this. And
but still a sex worker, right?
Yeah, sex worker.
Okay,
and transvestite, and apparently the person was like, I think you've got like genital warts, around your butt, and Lindsey Graham was like, oh no, those are my ladybugs. So if you ever see the ladybugs in reference to Lindsey Graham,
those references.
That's what they're talking about.
Oh my God, please no.
Wow.
That is.
Hey Mike.
Yeah.
I just have to make the call here.
Yeah.
We do have the down the rabbit hole episode, that subset. I think we need a down the bunger hole for this one to populate.
All right. Well, I have to apologize to our audience. This episode has gone way off the rails.
And we don't even have an after party.
I know the whole thing has become an after party. Okay. Well, look, all of that aside, and I will just say that is allegedly, who knows, but there are a lot of such stories out there. The important thing for us to bring it back to reality here is that AI continues to advance even as humanity gets dumber and dumber, right? So that is the takeaway from today's show, especially in the Senate. They're getting dumber and dumber and dumber. The only reason I'm voting coming up is to vote against Ted Cruz, and I will vote for a robot instead of Ted Cruz. Like, I will vote for a squirrel instead of Ted Cruz. You know what I'm saying? The human senators are dumber and dumber. And Zach, I say, I want an AI senator that it's open source. I can see the thinking tokens, and we vote on the prompt. We vote on the prompt. Like, here are your priorities. Fucking follow what the voters gave you. I will vote for that AI senator.
Oh, that's brilliant, right? Like, can you FOIA the internal system prompt of your representatives? Like, nope. Oh my gosh, think about that.
I know, because they're all answering to another nation or their donors or whatever. If we had AI senators and the thinking tokens were like a public record, it's on like Senate.gov. Here's like Senator, Bobby the robot or whatever. And like you could read all the thinking tokens, and it couldn't be bought off with sex or blackmail or Epstein files, because it doesn't ever get laid. It's a machine, Right. That's why you can't do worse than the humans we have in the Senate.
That's what's the worst you're going to find in these system prompts? Like a bunch of ladybugs?
Ladybug tokens.
Okay, that's it. That's it. I'm closing down the episode. We're out of time. That's it. Zach, thank you for your time today. Tell us about your websites. It's zachvorhees.com, but also what's your other site for the book?
It's googleleaksbook.com. It's got all the details about what Google's hiding in their skeleton closet. Also, catch me on x.com/perpetualmaniac. And if you see my tweets, you'll understand why I chose that handle.
Perfect. Perpetual Maniac, all one word on X. So thank you, Zach, and thank you, Todd.
Zach.
It's been. We're gonna have a talk after this show about boundary. Hey, you know who can teach us about guardrails? Dario Amodi. Yeah, let's call Dario about guardrails. Clearly, we need guardrails on this show.
Yeah.
Right? No, we can say our show escaped.
Yes.
And
right after our shoulders started.
It got out of control. It's not our fault. We were hacked.
Mike Adams has no moat. That's basically
no moat. All right. Well, thank you, Zach. And thank you, Todd. Have a great rest of your day.
See you guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Zach Voorhees, everybody, with the Zach Adams effect. A little bit off the rails today. That's just a demonstration of what can happen when humans are running this show. So you know we're real. We're real. Check out all the other episodes at decentralize.tv, and be sure to check out Zach's website at zachvorhees.com. That's VORHIES. So thank you for listening. Take care.
Cheers.
If you'd like to help support us, check out all of the affiliate deals I put together for you at rangerdeals.com. And if you go there, you'll see I've done due diligence on all of these affiliates. There's really not that many, but we have partners like Battalion Metals, co-founded by Tucker Carlson, Nessa's organic CBDA hemp extract, Above Phone models that are de-Googled phones, Red Life, here's the peptide company, Limitless, Petmectin, and so much more, including the satellite phone store, VP.net. And for almost all of these, you can use discount code RANGER here, or sometimes it's something else like Brighteon50, but normally the discount code is RANGER, which will save you something on these deals. Now, we do earn a little bit off of these affiliate deals, but it's no additional cost to you, and it helps support our platform and our work for humanity, including our AI projects that offer free open source knowledge in multiple languages. You can check those out at brightlearn.ai and brightanswers.ai. So thank you for supporting us. Check out rangerdeals.com anytime you want to save money on really high-end products and solutions that I personally endorse. I'm Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Thanks for watching.